Chapter 841. Elder Brother Duan, you haven't eaten for so long. Your body must not be able to take rice. So, I cooked a bowl of millet porridge for you. At this moment, Yixian returned and placed a plate with a bowl of hot porridge on the stone table in the courtyard as she spoke with a smile. Thank you. Duan Lingtian smelled the fragrance of the porridge and his appetite was aroused. After sitting down at the stone table, he began to eat the porridge. The porridge tasted very good. It was obvious that it was cooked with care. Xiaoxian, your culinary skills are not bad. Whoever marries you in the future will be blessed. Duan Lingtian smiled. But in next to no time, Duan Lingtian noticed that when his words that carried a teasing tone entered into Yixian's ears, it instead caused the corners of Yixian's mouth to curl into a bitter smile. Xiaoxian, what's wrong with you? Did I say something wrong? Duan Lingtian was startled. No. Yixian shook her head and forced a smile on her face as she changed the topic. Right, Elder Brother Duan, why did you appear in the reed field outside our drift cloud town? Hearing Yixian's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile bitterly. I don't know either. You don't know? Yixian was stunned. She could tell that Duan Lingtian did not seem to be lying. However, what exactly did a person experience to sleep for 18 days without any signs of injury or illness? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Then, as if he had thought of something, he asked Xiaoxian, you said earlier that this is the Ye family in Drift Cloud Town? I wonder if you know where the Skywolf Fort is? Skywolf Fort? Yixian could not help but be shocked when she heard this. Elder Brother Duan, are you talking about the Skywolf Fort, one of the 4 major forces in the south of the Northern Desert? The 4 major forces in the south of the Northern Desert. Duan Lingtian was startled. Then, he asked curiously, the 4 major forces you mentioned, don't tell me it's the Skywolf Fort, the Blade Sect, the Empyrean Temple, and the Emotion-Severing Sect? That's right. Yixian nodded and then asked, Elder Brother Duan, why are you asking about the Skywolf Fort? The Skywolf Fort is located in the southernmost part of the Northern Desert. It's quite far from here. Where is this place? A premonition arose to Duan Lingtian to him. Drift Cloud Town is located to the east of the Northern Desert. Yixian said. The east of the Northern Desert? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Then, he recovered from his shock and couldn't help but laugh bitterly. He was shocked in his heart. Why did I come to the east of the Northern Desert? It's probably a very long distance from here to the south of the Northern Desert, right? With my current strength, I'll definitely encounter danger if I head to the south of the Northern Desert and head to the Blade Sect. Leaving alone is extremely risky. Duan Lingtian felt rather helpless when he thought about this. Looks like if I want to go to the Blade Sect, I have to think of another way. Duan Lingtian thought to himself, Miss. Right at this moment, a voice sounded from outside the courtyard. Patriarch heard that the young master you saved has woken up. He wants you to bring the young master to see him. Father, what does he want to do? Yixian frowned. She seemed to be reluctant. Xiaoxian, I didn't expect you to be the daughter of the Ye family. Speaking of which, I've disturbed you and the Ye family for quite some time. Bring me to see the patriarch of the Ye family. Duan Lingtian smiled. Since Duan Lingtian had said so, Yixian naturally had no reason to refuse. She beckoned Duan Lingtian and headed to the Ye family's main hall. In the Ye family's main hall, the patriarch of the Ye family, Yiting, sat at the head of the table. Yiting was about 50 years old. He had an ordinary appearance, but there was a dignified aura between his brows. He had the dignity of a person in a high position. A middle-aged man in his 40s sat at the head of the table. The middle-aged man's facial features were similar to Yiting's. However, there was a hint of gloominess and viciousness between his brows. It was obvious he was not an ordinary person. This person was the 3rd elder of the Ye family, Yi Hui. He was also Yiting's half-brother. Big brother, it's not that I want to criticize Xiaoxian. Do you think the Shun family will let the matter rest if news of Xiaoxian, a virgin, bringing a man to her courtyard reaches the ears of the Shun family? Yi Hui said in a deep voice. Sigh. Yiting sighed. That girl Xiaoxian is just like her mother. She's kind-hearted and not scheming. Her actions this time were indeed thoughtless. However, I heard that the man had been lying in bed for 18 days and had just woken up today. I don't think anything will happen between him and Xiao Xian. Moreover, I believe that Xiao Xian won't do anything she shouldn't do. Yi Ting added. I'm willing to believe in Xiao Xian as well. However, if news of this spreads, what will the outsiders think of it? At that time, won't the Shun family tear our Ye family apart? Yi Hui's expression darkened as he spoke. So, big brother, when Xiao Xian brings that fellow here, I'll ask him to get lost. You mustn't help him. Sight. I know what to do. However, he's someone Xiao Xian brought back. No matter what, you have to give Xiao Xian some face. Yi Ting sighed. I understand. Yi Hui nodded. Duan Lingtian followed behind Yi Xian as they shuttled through the Ye family's estate, and finally arrived at the Ye family's main hall. Duan Lingtian had just entered the main hall when he sensed two gazes locking onto him. One of the gazes was rather polite. The other gaze was not only sharp, but also unbridled. Duan Lingtian's expression darkened slightly. He raised his head and met the gaze of the owner of the gaze behind him. It was Yi Hui who sat in the seat of honor below the main hall. He was not afraid in the slightest. Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy swept out, and immediately detected the person's cultivation base. It was at the first level of the void interpretation stage. Father. After Yi Xian walked into the main hall, she bowed to Yi Ting who sat in the seat of honor. After that, she glanced indifferently at Yi Hui who sat in the seat of honor below. Second uncle. Yi Hui snorted coldly. This snort was directed at both Duan Lingtian and Yi Xian. Xiao Xian, you're becoming more and more impolite. Originally, I still didn't know what was going on, but now it seems like it's the people around you who are problematic. It's not a good habit to learn from the bad instead of the good. When you enter the Shun family in the future, won't people laugh at our Ye family for not having a good upbringing? Yi Hui glanced coldly at Duan Lingtian before he looked at Yi Xian and spoke sarcastically. Second uncle. Yi Xian's expression changed slightly as she looked at Yi Hui and said in a low voice, My friend shouldn't have offended you, right? What right do you have to speak to him? Also, I've already said that I won't marry that good-for-nothing from the Shun family. If you want to marry, then marry yourself. Yi Hui was so angry that his face turned ashen. He looked at Yi Ting and said, Big brother, look. This is your good daughter. Xiao Xian. Yi Ting frowned and scolded. How can you speak to your second uncle like that? Second uncle? Yi Xian laughed sarcastically and said, I treat him as my second uncle, but does he treat me as his niece? In order to flatter the Shun family, in order to build a relationship with the Shun family, in order to benefit himself, he sold me out behind my back. I don't have a second uncle like him. As she finished speaking, Yi Xian's face was filled with determination. Yi Xian's hysterical words not only shocked Yi Ting and Yi Hui, but even Duan Lingtian was shocked. Was this still the gentle Xiao Xian? However, from Yi Xian's words, Duan Lingtian roughly understood the conflict between Yi Xian and her second uncle. No wonder Xiao Xian's expression didn't look right when I told her that whoever marries her will be blessed. It turns out that her second uncle set her up behind her back and forced her to marry that good-for-nothing. Duan Lingtian had always been meticulous, so it was easy for him to guess the ins and outs of the matter. Big brother, it seems that Xiao Xian has a strong opinion of me. I really want to ask you to be the judge of this matter. Am I doing this for the sake of the big picture? A marriage alliance with the Shun family will only be beneficial to the Ye family. Yi Hui looked at Yi Ting and spoke slowly. Xiao Xian you. Just as Yi Ting was about to scold Yi Xian, Duan Lingtian stepped forward and stood in front of Yi Xian. He looked at Yi Ting and interrupted Yi Ting. Duan Lingtian greets the head of the Ye family. Yi Hui snorted coldly and muttered to himself. Don't you know that it's rude to interrupt someone when they're talking? How could Xiao Xian know this kind of trash? Although Yi Hui wasn't talking to Duan Lingtian, he was obviously talking to Duan Lingtian. Trash? Duan Lingtian's face darkened when he heard Yi Hui's words. A murderous intent flashed across his eyes. At the same time, Duan Lingtian felt a little irritated. The origin energy in his body was also becoming restless. The thought of killing Yi Hui rose in his heart for no reason. Moreover, this thought grew stronger and stronger. It was as if it was constantly driving Duan Lingtian and trying to control Duan Lingtian's emotions. For a moment, Duan Lingtian was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. After taking a deep breath, his restless emotions calmed down. At the same time, he was shocked. When did I become so easily angered? I feel like my emotions aren't under my control. It seems that the dream was real. My emotions must have been affected by the Devil Seal tombstone, and there are repercussions. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but recall that in the dream, he seemed to only be left with bloodthirsty and ruthless emotions that completely suppressed his normal emotions. Therefore, he was almost certain that it was the repercussions of the Devil Seal tombstone giving him great strength after he killed everyone. I originally thought that with the Devil Seal tombstone, I would be able to use it to give me strength whenever I encounter danger in the future. I would be able to use the strength it gave me to clear away all obstacles. However, it seems like things aren't as simple as they seem. While the Devil Seal tombstone helped me, it also left a wound and flaw in my soul, causing my emotions to go out of control. Perhaps, if the dreamlike incident were to happen again, my emotions would go out of control. In the end, I wouldn't even be able to control myself, causing me to become a true devil. When Duan Lingtian thought up to this point, he felt a lingering fear in his heart. Chapter 842. The Devil Seal tombstone is too terrifying. If possible, it's best if I don't use the power within it in the future. Duan Lingtian made up his mind. When Duan Lingtian returned to his senses, he recalled the words Yi Xian's second uncle, Yi Hui, had said to himself. He could not help but smile faintly. Then Duan Lingtian looked at Yi Hui, who was as angry as a little tigress and was about to attack Yi Xian. Xiao Xian, if someone is willing to risk the happiness of his family for his own selfish desires, don't you think he's worse than a dog or a pig? Of course. Yi Xian, who was about to explode when she heard Yi Hui's words, smiled when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. At the same time, she secretly gave Duan Lingtian a thumbs up. Enough. Finally, Yi Ting could not bear to watch any longer. Both of you stop talking. You're the young man Xiao Xian saved, right? Yi Ting asked indifferently as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Are you all right now? Yi Ting asked again. Yes. Duan Lingtian responded again. Since you're all right, take these 10 low-grade origin stones and return to where you came from. Yi Ting said indifferently. At the same time, he raised his hand and casually tossed 10 low-grade origin stones at Duan Lingtian's feet. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes. This seemed to be an insult to him and trampling on his dignity, right? Father, what's the meaning of this? Yi Xian's expression changed when she saw this scene. She said angrily, Elder brother Duan is my friend. You insulting him is equivalent to insulting me. Hurry up and apologize to him. Yi Ting's expression darkened when he saw his daughter standing up for someone else. Ask him to apologize? Was it possible? Chi. Yi Hui sneered, then glanced coldly at Duan Lingtian and said, Big brother, I think this kid thinks it's too little. 10 low-grade primordial stones, that's quite a lot. Yi Ting didn't take it to heart and said indifferently, Our Ye family doesn't owe him anything. But he owes our Ye family. Ye family head, that's not right. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes and said faintly, Even if I owe someone, it's Xiao Xian. What does it have to do with your Ye family? Xiao Xian is a member of the Ye family. Since you owe Xiao Xian, you owe the Ye family as well. Yi Ting looked disdainfully at Duan Lingtian and sneered. Ha ha ha. Duan Lingtian laughed heartily when he heard this. His laughter was wanton and free, and it filled the entire Ye family hall. What are you laughing at? Yi Ting said in a low voice, Am I wrong? Ye family head, do you still know that Xiao Xian is a member of the Ye family? You didn't even discuss your marriage with her before deciding it with an outsider. You acted first and reported later. Do you think that Xiao Xian is a member of the Ye family? Duan Lingtian stopped laughing and said coldly, Perhaps in your eyes, Xiao Xian is just a tool for the marriage between the Ye family and the Shen family. Yi Ting's expression turned ugly when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Yi Xian, who stood behind Duan Lingtian, was excited to the point she clenched her fists tightly, as what Duan Lingtian said had spoken out the thoughts in her heart, and it resonated with her. Brat, the Ye family's matters are none of your business. Yi Hui stood up from his seat and glared angrily at Duan Ling Tian as he shouted in a stern voice. What? Didn't you just say that I owe the Ye family a favor? Now you're trying to cut ties with me? Duan Ling Tian smiled. His smile was as bright as the sun. The Ye family doesn't welcome you. Get lost. Yi Ting stood up from the seat at the head as well, and the origin energy on his body flashed like flames as his gaze that was like a blade flashed towards Duan Ling Tian as he shouted out coldly. Father, what are you doing? Elder brother Duan is my friend. If you ask him to get lost, I'll get lost with him. Let's see how you're going to explain this to the Shen family. Yi Xian took a step forward. Although she wasn't tall, she stood in front of Duan Ling Tian and spread out her arms to protect him. She was afraid that Yi Ting would attack Duan Ling Tian. Xiao Xian, get out of the way. Yi Ting's expression turned even uglier when he saw that his daughter was standing with an outsider. Yi Xian was young, but she had an unyielding character. She ignored Yi Ting. If you don't get out of the way, I won't acknowledge you as my daughter. Yi Ting roared in a deep voice under his extreme rage. Yi Xian's face turned as white as a sheet when she heard this. She looked as if she had lost her soul. She muttered to herself, it's changed, everything has changed. The father who loved me so dearly will never come back. The father who promised my mother before she died that he would let me live happily for the rest of my life is no longer around. The father who would never yell at me is no longer around. Duan Ling Tian sighed. Every family had its own difficulties. This saying was indeed true. At this moment, he could feel Yi Xian's disappointment, but he didn't know how to comfort her. However, he secretly made a decision in his heart. He had to help this kind-hearted girl get through this difficult time. Xiao Xian. Yi Ting sighed when he heard Yi Xian's muttering. Actually, the Shen family's young master is not bad, although he's usually a little too much of a hedonist and indulgent. However, he told me that he's just putting on a show, and that he'll treat you sincerely. Father, let me ask you, do you believe his nonsense? Yi Xian sneered. In Drifting Cloud Town, as long as the family's daughter is pretty, which family hasn't been harmed by him? The number of girls who chose to commit suicide after being defiled by him is at least 80, if not 100, right? You want me to marry such a hedonist? Just because the Shen family can help the Ye family after the marriage, father, you want to push me into the fire pit? Yi Xian's rhetorical questions left Yi Ting speechless. He didn't know how to answer. Xiao Xian, you have to be sensible. You're a member of the Ye family, so you naturally have to think for the sake of the Ye family. Sacrificing you will allow our Ye family to rise to a higher level, and the Ye family will never forget you. The nearby Yi Hui interrupted. No matter how high a family rises by sacrificing a woman, it's unable to change the lowliness in its bones. It'll fall down again sooner or later. Duan Ling Tian spoke with disdain. In his lifetime, he looked down upon people and powers that relied on women to seek benefits the most. Kid, you're courting death. Yi Hui was furious and couldn't restrain himself any longer, and he seemed to have transformed into a ferocious wild beast that directly pounced towards Duan Ling Tian. Bang! He slapped out with his palm, and his origin energy skyrocketed before fusing with his material water concept and flashed towards Duan Ling Tian's chest. The wind from his palm swept out and caused the airflow in the air to flash along with it, and it transformed into circle after circle of ripples that ceaselessly swept out towards the surroundings. Elder brother Duan, watch out! Yi Xian, who was originally immersed in her pain, inadvertently saw this scene and her expression changed greatly. Her eyes were filled with extreme anger towards her second uncle Yi Hui. Yi Ting had the ability to stop her, yet he didn't make any move and watched all of this coldly from the sidelines. But in the next moment, he was unable to maintain his composure any longer, and his pupils instantly constricted. Slap! An enormous bang sounded out, and it was Duan Ling Tian casually pushing out with his palm to forcefully receive Yi Hui's palm strike. Duan Ling Tian's expression remained unchanged, but Yi Hui's expression instantly flushed red. You overestimate yourself. There's no enmity between us, yet you want to kill me just because I said a few words that I felt were right? Duan Ling Tian's cold and indifferent gaze met his gaze as he asked in a low voice. Yi Hui held back a mouthful of blood, yet he wasn't willing to show weakness before Duan Ling Tian, so he didn't spit it out. and it was naturally impossible for him to reply. What's the point of keeping your cultivation for a person like you? Duan Lingtian's voice became slightly colder. Stay your hand. When he heard Duan Lingtian's words, Yi Ting, who felt that something was amiss, realized what Duan Lingtian intended to do, and his expression turned grim. Swoosh! Without any hesitation, Yi Ting flew out and pounced towards Duan Lingtian like a ferocious tiger descending from the mountain. When Duan Lingtian had easily received Yi Hui's palm strike, Yi Xian was stunned, because she didn't expect Duan Lingtian to be so powerful. Her second uncle was an expert at the profound void stage. Even in the entire Drift Cloud town, he could be considered a top-notch existence. Before she could regain her senses, Yi Xian's expression changed once again. Because she saw her father pounce towards Duan Lingtian, she couldn't help but worry about Duan Lingtian, because her father's strength was even greater than her second uncle's. Boom! Yi Ting's speed was very fast, but Duan Lingtian's speed was even faster. His other hand swept out, and under Yi Hui's panicked gaze, it fiercely landed on his dantian. In an instant, Yi Hui's dantian was shattered, and a vast amount of origin energy completely leaked out. Wah! With his cultivation crippled, the blood in Yi Hui's body surged, and he could no longer hold back the clotted blood in his mouth, and he spat it out in large mouthfuls. You're courting death. Yi Ting had finally arrived, and he who had a spirit sword in his hand shouted out explosively as he struck out with his sword like a bolt of lightning towards Duan Lingtian, who had his back towards him, aiming directly for Duan Lingtian's vital point. He wanted to kill Duan Lingtian with a single strike and take revenge for his younger brother that had his cultivation crippled. Whoosh! An ear-piercing sword whistle pierced Duan Lingtian's eardrums in the blink of an eye, causing Duan Lingtian's brows to raise. Whirlwind! In the next moment, Duan Lingtian easily dodged Yi Ting's sword, and he stood far away as he stared coldly at Yi Ting. Yi Ting was a second-level void interpretation stage martial artist, and he similarly didn't take Yi Ting seriously. But when he thought about how Yi Ting was Xiao Xian's father, Duan Lingtian didn't make a move against him, and it could be considered to be giving face to Xiao Xian, and he really felt heartache for this kind-hearted girl. Big brother, help me take revenge. Help me take revenge. Yi Hui, whose cultivation had been crippled, held his dantian as he sat on the ground, and he didn't see the speed Duan Lingtian revealed as he roared in a low voice. Take revenge? A wisp of indescribable bitterness appeared on the corners of Yi Ting's mouth. How would he take revenge? The sword strike from before was his strongest sword strike, and it was also his fastest sword strike. It was just that sword strike that was close at hand and was about to succeed, yet it was easily dodged by Duan Lingtian. At that moment only he knew clearly what he felt. Now he could confirm one thing. Chapter 843. Who are you? Yi Ting looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a bitter smile. After witnessing Duan Lingtian's strength, Yi Ting no longer dared to put on airs as the head of the Ye family. He knew that in front of a true expert, he, as the head of the Ye family, was no different from an ant. If the other party wanted to kill him, it would be easy. He would not be afraid just because he was the head of the Ye family. I'm Xiao Xian's friend, Duan Lingtian replied calmly. Big brother. Why are you wasting your breath on him? Kill him quickly. Yi Hui's expression changed drastically when he realized that Yi Ting did not make any moves against Duan Lingtian. Kill, kill, kill. All you know is to kill. If you wanted to kill your big brother would have died several times over. Yi Ting was already nervous. When he heard Yi Hui's words, he immediately reprimanded him impatiently. What? Yi Hui's expression changed drastically when he heard Yi Ting's words. He was already in great pain after his dantian was destroyed. Now that he was frightened, he fainted. Elder brother Duan. Yi Xian regained her senses. She realized that the purple-clothed youth she had saved was far more powerful than her second uncle and her father. In the blink of an eye, he had destroyed her second uncle's dantian. Then, at the critical moment, he had easily dodged her father's furious attack. Even her grandfather, the former head of the Ye family, could not compare to him. Xiao Xian, don't worry. I will help you solve your problem. Duan Lingtian smiled at Yi Xian and gave her a reassuring look. Yi Xian's heart warmed. Then she looked at Yi Ting with a trace of pain in her eyes. Finally, she said, "Elder brother Duan, can you let my father go?" "Silly girl." Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. "You don't think that big brother is a cold-blooded demon, do you?" When Yixian heard Duan Lingtian's words, she couldn't help but smile. Duan Lingtian's gaze fell on Yi Ting as he sneered. "Yeah, family head, did you see that just now? Even if you want to sacrifice Xiaoxian, when you are in danger, she will be the first to stand up and plead for you. She won't ignore your life and death just because you want to sacrifice her. In her heart, you are her father, the father who gave birth to her and raised her." Duan Lingtian's words were spoken in a resolute manner. Yi Ting smiled bitterly, then put away his sword and sighed. "Do you really think I want to sacrifice Xiaoxian? If there was any other way, even if I had to die, I wouldn't let Xiaoxian marry that beast." Duan Lingtian and Yixian couldn't help but be stunned by Yi Ting's sudden change. The current Yi Ting and the Yi Ting from before were like two different people. "Humph." Duan Lingtian glanced at Yi Ting disdainfully. "Just now, didn't you keep talking about how good the Shun family's hedonistic young master is in front of Xiaoxian? Why are you changing your words now?" "I was forced by the situation. I just wanted to convince little Xian." Yi Ting sighed, then looked lovingly at Yixian and slowly walked over. Yi Ting reached out his hand and gently stroked Yixian's head. He said gently, "Xiaoxian, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's all my fault." "Dad." Yixian hadn't seen her father so gentle in a long time. Her eyes reddened as she threw herself into Yi Ting's arms. "What happened?" Soon Duan Lingtian and Yixian found out the ins and outs of the matter from Yi Ting's mouth. It turned out that the whole thing was caused by Yi Hui alone. Yi Hui secretly agreed to the Shun family's request for a marriage alliance. He agreed to betroth Yixian to the hedonistic young master of the Shun family. As a result, he used the Shun family's connections to gain a lot of personal benefits. When Yi Ting found out about this, he flew into a rage. He personally went to the Shun family and wanted to break off the engagement. But how could the Shun family be willing to do so? The Shun family spread word that if the Ye family didn't fulfill their promise, the Shun family would declare war on the Ye family and make the Ye family completely vanish from Driftcloud Town and become history. The strongest person in our Ye family is my father, who rarely leaves the house, but he's only at the 3rd level of the void interpretation stage. After this incident happened, what I was most worried about was my father finding out about it. Once he finds out, he'll surely kill second brother with his own hands. When he spoke up to hear, Yi Ting glanced at Yi Hui, who'd fainted. Moreover, with my father's temper, he'll surely stop at nothing and fight the Shun family until the end for Xiaoxian. But once the matter develops to that extent, the Ye family will be finished. The Shun family is too strong. They have 2 martial artists at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage alone. Moreover, the supreme elder of the Shun family is even in existence at the 5th level of the void interpretation stage. Our Ye family going against the Shun family is no different than striking a rock with an egg. Yi Ting closed his eyes with slight pain, and he continued after a short while. "So, for the sake of the entire Ye family, I made a painful choice to unite with the Shun family by marriage and make Xiaoxian submit. For this reason, I didn't hesitate to destroy the relationship between Xiaoxian and I with my own hands, and I betrayed the promise I made to my late wife. Xiaoxian, I'm sorry. Father has let you down." As he finished speaking, Yi Ting's tears flowed down his face, and he had an apologetic expression. "Father." Yixian tightly embraced her father as 2 streams of clear tears flowed down her face, and she muttered, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I always thought that you didn't love Xiaoxian anymore. Xiaoxian is in so much pain, really in so much pain." Duan Lingtian couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the pair of father and daughter before him. Looks like he'd misunderstood Yi Ting as well. Yi Ting was a good father, but at the same time, he was also the patriarch of the Yi family, and there were many things he had to consider. Ye family patriarch. When he saw Yi Ting and Yixian separate, Duan Lingtian took a step forward and looked at Yi Ting as he asked in a low voice, "You said earlier that the strongest person in the Shen family is a 5th level void interpretation stage martial artist?" "Yes." Yi Ting nodded, and at the same time his eyes lit up. "Brother Duan, could it be that you..." "Yeah, family patriarch. I'll make a trip to the Shen family with you. Duan Lingtian interrupted Yi Ting, and then he walked out of the Ye family audience hall with large strides. When he arrived before the entrance, he didn't forget to turn around and look at Yi Xian. Xiao Xian, elder brother Duan will solve this problem for you today. Elder brother Duan, are you really confident? Yi Xian had a worried expression as she said, I don't want anything to happen to you as well. Otherwise, I won't be able to feel at ease for my entire lifetime. Don't worry. Duan Lingtian smiled confidently. He didn't take a family whose strongest person was only a 5th-level void interpretation stage martial artist seriously. It was fine if they were sensible, but if they weren't, he didn't mind teaching them a lesson. When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed with a cold light. After walking out of the Ye family estate with Yi Ting, Duan Lingtian and Yi Ting walked side by side towards the Shun family estate. All along the way, he found out about some things in Drift Cloud Town from Yi Ting. The Shun family was an absolute overlord in Drift Cloud Town, and no family dared take the initiative to offend them. In Drift Cloud Town, there were a total of 3 families like the Ye family, and all of them had to act according to the wishes of the Shun family. A portion of the profits from their respective businesses had to be handed over to the Shun family every month. What an overbearing Shun family! Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed with a bright light as he muttered, It can't be helped. In Cloud Continent the strong are respected. The Shun family has 3 existences at the 4th level of the Void Interpretation stage or above, and they've already established their overlord status in Drift Cloud Town. Yi Ting sighed. With those 3 experts at the 4th level of the Void Interpretation stage or above present, even if our 3 great families join forces, we're still not a match for the Shun family. Duan Lingtian nodded as he deeply agreed with this. Even though the 3rd level of the Void Interpretation stage and the 4th level of the Void Interpretation stage were only a single level apart, it was a great gap, and the difference between the two was the strength of an entire 20 ancient horned dragons. Such a gap in strength was like a chasm that was difficult to surmount. The Shun family estate was situated at the east of Drift Cloud Town, and it occupied a vast area that was far from something the Ye family estate could compare to. As expected of the number 1 family in Drift Cloud Town, Duan Lingtian stood in the sky above the Shun family estate, and he looked down at the scenery beneath his feet. By his side, Yi Ting was slightly perturbed and uneasy, and he laughed bitterly. Brother Duan, isn't this not too good? No matter what, the Shun family is the number 1 family in our Drift Cloud Town. Ye family's patriarch, do you think that the Shun family will readily agree to your Ye family's request to break off the engagement and disregard past enmity if you show sufficient etiquette today? Duan Lingtian replied with a question instead. Of course it's impossible. Yi Ting hurriedly shook his head. If the Shun family finds out that our Ye family wants to break off the engagement, they'll surely act according to the threat they made to our Ye family that day and make a move against our Ye family. Then do you think there's a difference between us barging into the Shun family like this and showing sufficient etiquette and entering the Shun family from the main entrance? Duan Lingtian asked. Yi Ting shook his head. Then do you prefer the current situation? Or do you prefer to show sufficient etiquette and enter the Shun family from the main entrance? Duan Lingtian asked again. The current situation. Yi Ting's eyes lit up. He seemed to have been enlightened by Duan Lingtian for a moment. He looked down at the Shun family's mansion below his feet and roared at the top of his lungs, Members of the Shun family, listen up. Yi Ting of the Ye family is here to break off the engagement. How can the hedonistic son of the Shun family touch the precious daughter of the Ye family? Yi Ting's voice contained elemental energy. When it was transmitted, it exploded above the Shun family's mansion like a clap of thunder. Unsurprisingly, it alarmed the entire Shun family. Duan Lingtian was stunned. He couldn't help but give Yi Ting a thumbs up. He said in a daze, Head of the Ye family, it seems that I have underestimated you. He originally wanted to teach Yi Ting how to do this, but who knew that Yi Ting would do it without a teacher? Furthermore, he did it better than he expected. It's the Ye family. The Ye family is here to break off the engagement. The entire Shun family's mansion was in an uproar because of Yi Ting's thunderous voice that contained elemental energy. Furthermore, Yi Ting's words were not only heard by the Shun family, but also by the people near the Shun family's mansion. What does the Ye family want to do? Is the Ye family trying to challenge the authority of the Shen family? I think the Ye family doesn't want to live anymore. Shen. Around the Shen family's mansion, many people flew into the air and approached the Shen family's mansion. They were all here to watch the show. It's the head of the Ye family, Yi Ting. Soon, someone recognized Yi Ting, who was flying above the Shen family's mansion. Who is the person beside Yi Ting? Chapter 844. I knew it. That voice sounded like the patriarch of the Ye family. Who would have thought that it really was him? Logically speaking, the patriarch of the Ye family shouldn't be such an impulsive person. But why would he provoke the Shen family today? I really can't understand him. Maybe it's because of the purple-clad young man next to him? That purple-clad young man doesn't seem to be from the Ye family. I've never seen him before. How could a young man who looks around 25 years old be able to help the Ye family fight against the Shen family? I don't care if you believe it or not. I don't believe it. More and more people gathered in the sky above the Shen family's mansion. They looked at Yi Ting and Duan Lingtian, who were not far away. At this moment, those who knew Yi Ting did not dare to go over and greet Yi Ting. They were all afraid that they would get into trouble. Yi Ting, how dare you? At this moment, the sky above the Shen family's mansion was filled with people. Within the Shen family's mansion, a man with a curly beard dressed in blue stepped into the air and spoke with a thunderous voice. After a while, the curly-bearded man arrived in front of Duan Lingtian and Yi Ting. He looked coldly at Yi Ting and said, Yi Ting, I think you really don't want to live anymore. It's the third elder of the Shen family, Shen Lei. It's said that Shen Lei is not only powerful, but he also has an extremely violent temper. He often kills people because of a disagreement. He's an out-and-out boorish man. Boorish men are not scary. The scariest thing is a boorish man who possesses strength that ordinary people can't reach. Soon after, someone recognized the curly-bearded man. For a moment, the onlookers were curious about how Yi Ting would deal with Shen Lei. Under the numerous gazes of anticipation, Yi Ting didn't even spare a glance at Shen Lei, and he didn't even intend to look at him. Instead, he looked at Duan Lingtian. Brother Duan, he's called Shen Lei, and he's the third elder of the Shen family. His cultivation is similar to mine, and he's also at the second level of the void interpretation stage. Second level of the void interpretation stage. Duan Lingtian was a little surprised. He did not expect that a random person from the Shen family would be as powerful as Yi Ting, the head of the Ye family. Now Duan Lingtian finally understood why the Shen family was the #1 family in Driftcloud Town. This foundation was enough to put the other 3 families, including the Ye family, to shame. Yi Ting, looks like you've really eaten the guts of a leopard today. Shen Lei, who was disregarded by Yi Ting, tugged on the curly beard on his face due to his rage. His large eyes instantly stared wide open as he shouted out explosively, and his figure flashed out to directly charge towards Yi Ting. Just a slight disagreement and he attacked. This was the Shen family's third elder, Shen Lei. For a moment, the surrounding onlookers sighed with emotion. I've heard of the Shen family's third elder's reputation since long ago. Now that I've seen it for myself, his temper is really as violent as the rumors say. Yi Ting, your grandpa Shen will let you know the consequences of provoking our Shen family today. Halfway through his dash, Shen Lei raised his hand and a large saber appeared in his hand. Subsequently, strands of violet lightning appeared and coiled around the large saber. OM! The lightning saber struck out and pointed directly at Yi Ting, and it descended mercilessly towards Yi Ting. In the sky, the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth appeared abruptly. 77 ancient horned dragon silhouettes, and a few thousand ancient mammoth silhouettes flashed out abruptly with an aggressive aura. Second level of the void interpretation stage. Second level intermediate lightning concept. Grade 4 spirit weapon. This was Shen Lei's entire strength. On the other hand, Yi Ting, who was enveloped by the lightning saber, instead stood on the spot without the slightest movement, and his expression remained unchanged and seemed to be exceedingly calm. Could it be that Yi Ting has been scared silly? The surrounding onlookers were dumbstruck. In next to no time they realized that Yi Ting wasn't scared silly, and it was instead because he knew that he would be fine. Suddenly, the violet-clothed young man that stood by Yi Ting's side was already standing between Yi Ting and Shun Lei, and his speed was so swift that no one present saw it clearly. Subsequently, everyone saw an unbelievable scene. The violet-clothed young man attacked like a bolt of lightning and flashed towards Shun Lei's lightning saber with his bare hands, causing the surrounding onlookers to be dumbstruck once more. Only a single thought remained in their hearts. Has this young man gone mad? In next to no time they realized that this young man wasn't mad, and they were thinking too much. Slap! The violet-clothed young man attacked like a bolt of lightning and actually really caught Shun Lei's saber strike that carried the might of lightning, and even Shun Lei himself was dumbstruck. Bang! An enormous bang sounded out, and everyone saw that after the violet-clothed young man tossed the grade 4 spirit saber in Shun Lei's hand to the side, his palm descended onto Shun Lei and blasted Shun Lei flying. Ah! Shun Lei flew out like an arrow that left the bow, and his countenance that had become ghastly pale couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood on the way, and he flew for a while before standing still in a sorry state. Who are you? Shun Lei couldn't help but gasp, and he revealed a fearful expression as he looked at the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth that hadn't condensed into form in the sky before dispersing. The violet-clothed young man before him had given him too great of a shock. Although he was unable to see the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth when the violet-clothed young man attacked, based on the violet-clothed young man's ability to catch a saber strike that he struck out with full force with his bare hands, the violet-clothed young man was at least in existence at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage or above. I'm Yi Xian's big brother. Duan Lingtian replied indifferently when faced with Shun Lei's question. Yi Xian. Shun Lei frowned, and then he seemed to have thought of something and came to a sudden understanding. I remember now, Yi Xian is Yi Ting's daughter, and she's also the marriage partner between the Ye family and our Shun family. But, when did the Ye family have someone like you? Shun Lei asked in a low voice. I'm not a member of the Ye family, Duan Lingtian said. I came to the Shun family this time only to help Yi Xian break off the engagement. Your Shun family agrees to break off the engagement and promise not to vent your anger on the Ye family, and everyone will be happy. Otherwise what? Before Duan Lingtian could finish speaking, he was directly interrupted by a loud and dignified voice. Subsequently, a sturdy figure soared into the sky and arrived beside Shun Lei. Third Elder, are you all right? Clan leader. When he saw the person who had arrived, even someone as hot-tempered as Shun Lei bowed respectfully. But this young man isn't simple. He's at least at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage, since he's able to receive my full force attack with his bare hands. Duan Lingtian examined the person who interrupted him. It was a sturdy middle-aged man, and his body faintly revealed the aura of a superior. Coupled with the way Shun Lei greeted him, his identity was obvious. It was the Shun family's clan leader, Shan Dong. Duan Lingtian learned from Yi Ting that Shan Dong was one of the 2 4th-level void interpretation stage martial artists in the Shun family on the way to the Shun family's mansion after leaving the Ye family's mansion. He received your full force attack with his bare hands? Shan Dong's expression changed slightly when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He had just arrived, so he did not see the scene when Duan Lingtian received Shun Lei's blade with his bare hands. Although he knew he could also receive Shun Lei's full force attack with his bare hands, it would be a little difficult for him. May I know where you're from, little brother? Shan Dong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a hint of dread. In his opinion, this purple-clad young man before him must have an extraordinary background since he already had a cultivation base at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage at such a young age. He might even be someone from one of the major forces in the eastern district of the northern desert. You might not know my background even if I tell you, so I won't say it. Duan Lingtian spoke indifferently. Even if he said he was from the Dark Han dynasty, there would probably be no one in Driftcloud Town that would know. Little brother really wants to stand up for the Ye family? Shan Dong frowned and asked with a low voice. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Little brother, do you know that if our Shun family were to back down after what you did today, we might become the laughingstock of the entire Driftcloud Town? Our Shun family can't afford to lose face like this. Shan Dong said. I know. Duan Lingtian nodded once more and said indifferently, but if someone defeats the 3 strongest members of your Shun family, then even if your Shun family backs down today, No one would laugh at you. Looks like little brother is extremely confident of your strength. Shandong started laughing from extreme anger. You're too kind. Duan Lingtian replied without going red in the slightest. Since it's like this, then I Shandong will properly experience little brother's ability today. If you're able to defeat me, then I'll ask our Shen family's supreme elder to battle you. If you're able to defeat him, then the engagement between the Shen family and Ye family will be cancelled, and the Shen family won't look for trouble with the Ye family in the future. Shandong spoke in a magnanimous manner. Since Jinart Shen is so straightforward, then I'll experience it. Duan Lingtian smiled. He never imagined that Shandong would be so straightforward, and for a time he had a rather good impression of Shandong. As expected of the patriarch of the number 1 clan in Drift Cloud Town, the Shen family. Little brother, please. Shandong nodded and then he raised his hand, causing a 7-foot-long spear to appear in his hand. Instantly, origin energy coiled around the body of the spear before transforming into strands of gray and hazy energy. Spear concept. Duan Lingtian was greatly shocked, as it was the first time he'd seen someone that had comprehended intermediate spear concept. Spear concept belonged to an unorthodox concept, and it was much more difficult to comprehend than ordinary concepts. Whoosh! In the sky above Shandong, the energy of the heavens and the earth roiled before converging into the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth in the end. 151 ancient horned dragon silhouettes and a few thousand ancient mammoth silhouettes gradually condensed into form, and they were lifelike as they accumulated force while waiting to attack. 4th level of the Void Interpretation Stage. 4th level Intermediate Spear Concept. Grade 3 Spirit Spear. Jinart Shan, you're the first person I've seen that has comprehended spear concept to such a level. Not to mention anything else, just this alone is enough for me to admire you. Duan Lingtian spoke with a sincere expression. Haha. Shandong stood ramrod straight with his spear in hand, and he laughed heartily. Being able to be praised by such an outstanding young expert like little brother, I Shandong can be considered to have lived my life in vain. Whoosh! 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 Right when Duan Lingtian and Shandong were in confrontation, numerous figures soared into the sky from within the Shen clan estate to converge with Shen Lei. It was precisely the group of Shen clan elders and Shen clan disciples. In next to no time they found out about everything that had occurred earlier from Shen Lei, and they couldn't help but be moved. Numerous gazes descended onto the violet-clothed young man in the distance. It was this young man that looked to be around the age of 25 that barehandedly received the full force slash of their Shen clan's 3rd elder, Shen Lei. Chapter 845. It's this kid who wants to help the Ye family break off the engagement? A young man in embroidered clothes looked at Duan Lingtian, who was confronting Shandong with a gloomy expression, and asked in a deep voice, "Is he even worthy of fighting my father?" This young man in embroidered clothes was precisely the man of the engagement between the Shen family and the Ye family. He was the Shen family's 2nd young master. Shen and 2nd young master. You mustn't underestimate him. Shen Lei frowned. He had never liked this good-for-nothing rich kid, Shan'en, but when he heard Shan'en looking down on Duan Lingtian in his words, he felt slightly uncomfortable. After all, even he was defeated by Duan Lingtian. Wasn't Shan'en belittling him by saying this? 3rd elder, I think you're old and useless. Shan'en glanced at Shen Lei and mocked. His words were without the slightest fear of this Shen family's 3rd elder, who was famous for his bad temper. Shen Lei's face sank, but he could not do anything to Shan'en. In this lifetime he had always done things his own way and was indifferent to life and death. Even if it was the Shen family's supreme elder, who was in existence at the 5th level of the Void Interpretation Stage, he was similarly not afraid. However, because he owed the patriarch of the Shen family, Shandong, his life when he was young, it caused him to completely lose his temper before Shandong and even Shandong's relatives. Shan'en, the Shen family's 2nd young master, was Shandong's youngest son. Out of consideration for Shandong saving his life all those years ago, he would never lose his temper before Shan'en, the strength of 150 ancient horned dragons. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as he looked at the phenomenon of heaven and earth above Shandong's head. Unknowingly, a sword had already appeared in his hand. It was a sword that faintly emitted a terrifying aura. A quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Next, with a command in his heart, the origin energy and second-level intermediate wind concept in Duan Lingtian's hand appeared at almost the exact same moment before fusing into the quasi-royal grade spirit sword as if it was crushing dry leaves and smashing rotten wood. Whoosh! In the next moment, 150 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared out of thin air. It was the heaven and earth phenomenon that was formed when the energy contained in Duan Lingtian's sword activated the heaven and earth energy. Under Duan Lingtian's deliberate control, all of the ancient horned dragon's silhouettes appeared at the same time. For this reason, nobody noticed anything unusual. Nobody noticed the quasi-royal great spirit sword in his hand. Duan Lingtian stood with his sword in hand and 150 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above his head as he confronted Shundong, who stood with his spear horizontally, and 151 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above his head. Even though Duan Lingtian could easily defeat Shundong in an instant by relying on his soul skill, Thousand Illusions. But Shundong's magnanimity from before caused Duan Lingtian to have a rather good impression of him. So he decided to use this method to battle Shundong and display his respect to Shundong. Even though it would be slightly difficult to obtain victory like this, Duan Lingtian didn't regret it. Moreover, using a strength that was similar to Shundong to battle Duan Lingtian could temper him to a certain extent. Unless Shundong utilizes other concepts. Otherwise, I'll at most utilize first-level elementary sword concept to execute the 9 dragons radiant flash, and I'll absolutely not utilize lightning concept or earth concept. Once first-level elementary sword concept was utilized, it was comparable to the strength of an ancient horned dragon. In this way, when Duan Lingtian attacked, it would similarly be comparable to the strength of 151 ancient horned dragons, and it was comparable to Shundong. Even if Shundong was slightly superior, he would only possess the strength of a few thousand ancient mammoths more. That bit of difference could be completely disregarded. Fight! The sword in Duan Lingtian's hand faintly emitted strands of fierce aura. At the same time, an ancient horned dragon silhouette silently appeared in an inconspicuous corner in the sky above him. The strength of 151 ancient horned dragons was accumulating strength and waiting to be unleashed. Little brother, you're young and capable. Shundong admires you. Today, no matter the outcome, Shundong wants to invite you to my Shen family for a drink. Shundong, who stood with his spear horizontally, spoke in a clear voice, and the clothes on his body fluttered with the wind. Thank you, Jinart Shen. Duan Lingtian, who stood with his sword in hand, smiled as he nodded. Jinart Shen is really magnanimous. Duan Lingtian has already come to provoke him, yet he actually still wants to invite Duan Lingtian to drink. As expected of the patriarch of the Shen family. With such magnanimity, it's no wonder that the Shen family is the #1 clan in our Driftcloud town. The #1 clan in Driftcloud town. Merely this magnanimity of Jinart Shen's is worthy of his reputation. The surrounding crowd of spectators nodded successively, and their words were filled with admiration towards Shundong. Little brother, watch out. Suddenly, Shundong shouted out explosively. As soon as he finished speaking, he'd already dashed out with a speed so swift that only numerous clearly visible afterimages were left behind. Swoosh! A wave of terrifying piercing howls sounded out at practically the exact same moment. It was Shundong who'd instantly arrived before Duan Lingtian and abruptly swung out the 7-foot-long spear in his hand. Bang! 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 Everywhere the long spear passed, it was like a worm leaving its cave, and it gave rise to a wave of deafening explosions. Everywhere the dragon head passed, it even fiercely collided with Duan Lingtian. The strength of 151 ancient horned dragons was completely unleashed. 9 dragons radiant flash. At the instant Shundong finished speaking, Duan Lingtian had already moved. He didn't choose to dodge because it was impossible for his speed to be faster than the spear in Shundong's hand. It was even to the extent that even if Shundong utilized his movement technique, it was still far from something he could compare to. The phenomenon of the heavens and the earth above him now mainly relied on the amplification of the quasi-royal great spirit sword in his hand, and even though his cultivation was similar to Chandong, and was at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage as well, but his comprehension of concept was far inferior to Shundong. The speed of his movement technique relied on origin energy and concept. Due to the gap in their concepts, the speed he revealed when he executed his movement technique was bound to be far inferior to Shandong. Under this circumstance, he could only utilize his advantage. Quasi-royal grade spirit sword. 9 Dragons Radiant Flash. Without the slightest hesitation, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and stabbed out with his sword. A vast and enormous force gushed out from the sword and finally transformed into 3 divine dragons. 2 completely material divine dragons, and 1 divine dragon that looked extremely illusory. In an instant, the 4 eyes of the 2 divine dragons flashed. At the same time, Duan Lingtian noticed that the 7-foot-long spear that Shandong pierced towards him had actually instantly slowed down, and this caused his heart to jerk. Could it be that Shandong noticed something? Whoosh! 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 4 extreme flashes shot out from the 4 eyes of the 2 divine dragons, and their target was Shandong. Their speed was so swift that it was shocking. Whoosh! At the critical moment, Shandong seemed to be able to predict the future. The 7-foot-long spear in his hand shook, and the tip of the spear flashed like a meteor. Whoosh! 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 The 7-foot-long spear that contained the spear concept that seemed to be able to penetrate everything consecutively stabbed out 5 times in an extremely short period of time. Although the speed of these 5 spears was not as fast as the extreme flashes, they were still a step ahead and pierced towards the space that the extreme flashes were about to pass through. When the first spear stabbed into the space, it just so happened that the first extreme flashes just happened to pass by and collided with it, shattering it. The second spear shattered the second extreme flashes. The third spear the third flashes. The fourth spear the fourth flashes. The 5th spear there was no longer any extreme flashes that could shatter it. Whoosh! It was like a drop of water falling on a calm lake, causing the airflow in the air to ripple like the surface of a lake, forming circles of ripples. What a powerful martial skill! Duan Lingtian withdrew his sword and stood still after his attack failed. He looked at Shandong, who was standing proudly in the distance, with a look of surprise on his face. Of course, the powerful martial skill was one thing. The most important thing was Shandong's reaction speed. Although Shandong's martial skill was strong, it was still inferior to his 9 Dragons Radiant Flash, by quite a bit. The reason why he was able to block the 4 extreme flashes of light shot out by the 9 Dragons Radiant Flash was because of Shandong's terrifying reaction speed. 5 consecutive spears, the first 4 spears had shattered his 4 extreme flashes. Although the 5th spear missed, it was because there was nothing that could break it. Duan Lingtian believed that even if there were 5 extreme flashes at that time, it would be difficult for them to escape Shandong's 5th spear. It's the Shun family's Tian-level martial skill. 9 Thunderbolt Strikes. Soon, some of the onlookers could not help but exclaim. It is said that once the Shun family's 9 Thunderbolt Strikes is cultivated to the perfection realm, one can strike 9 times in an instant, 9 consecutive strikes. I also heard that in this 9 Thunderbolt Strikes, the first Thunderbolt Strike can only be regarded as a beginner, the 3 Thunderbolt Strikes can be regarded as a small success, the 5 Thunderbolt Strikes can be regarded as a great success, and the 9 Thunderbolt Strikes can be regarded as a great success. So, Jin Arch Shun's 9 Thunderbolt Strikes has been cultivated to the great success realm. The onlookers were discussing animatedly. They were surprised by Shandong's attainments in the 9 Thunderbolt Strikes. Tian-level martial skills were powerful, but they were also very difficult to cultivate. Everyone was well aware of how difficult it was to cultivate to the mastery stage, and it was precisely because of this that they sincerely admired Shandong in their hearts. Humph! Look at his attack, it seems that it is not bad. But in the end, wasn't it easily resolved by my father? What a waste! Chunin looked at Duan Lingtian from afar as the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Shun Lei, who was beside him, twitched the corner of his mouth. Waste? This good-for-nothing dared to call that talented young man a waste? If Shunin was not Shandong's son, Shun Lei would have scolded him. Second young master, you called him a waste. Do you think you can beat him? Suddenly, an aged figure appeared silently by Chan An's side. And it was only when he spoke that Chan An and the other members of the Chan clan were jolted awake. Grand Supreme Elder. Looking at the old man with white hair and white eyebrows, The Shen family members bowed respectfully. Grand Supreme Elder. When Shen saw the old man, his expression changed slightly. He quickly bowed his head. Seeing this, Shen Lei could not help but laugh. In such a large family, apart from clan leader Shendong and the eldest young master who had joined a powerful force, only the Grand Supreme Elder could control the second young master. Second young master, you haven't answered me. Do you think you can beat him? The Grand Supreme Elder asked Shen again. His old face was very serious. Shen smiled bitterly and shook his head. Although he was a good-for-nothing, he was not a brainless person. That young man in purple who looked to be about the same age as him was obviously an expert on the same level as his father. Looking at the sixth extreme ray of light that swept over in an instant, the corners of his mouth curled into a bitter smile. Am I going to lose in the end? As he sighed in his heart, Shendong felt the 7-foot-long spear in his hand vibrate, and the vibration cracked the web between his thumb and index finger. He couldn't help but let go of the long spear in his hand. You won. Shendong grabbed the long spear with his other hand and looked at Duan Lingtian with a complicated gaze. He then asked, I really didn't expect that you would raise your martial arts technique to a new level. It was because Duan Lingtian had raised his martial arts technique to a new level and displayed 6 extreme rays of light that he was defeated in one move. He was very clear about this point in his heart, but he was sincerely convinced. Thank you for letting me win. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly and casually put the quasi-royal Great Spirit sword away. The 151 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above his head instantly disappeared. Jin Archen was defeated? This young man actually defeated Jin Archen? It seems like he had a breakthrough in his martial arts technique, and that's why he defeated Jin Archen in one move. No matter what, Duan Lingtian's victory shocked the spectators, including the Shen family's elders and Shen family's disciples. Impossible! How could father lose to him? Shen kept shaking his head. He was in a daze and was unwilling to believe that everything before his eyes was real. Soon after, Shen seemed to have recalled something and returned to his senses. He snorted coldly. So what if he defeated my father? My father's strength is inferior to the Supreme Elder. Supreme Elder, this fellow helped the Ye family to provoke our Shen family. You must teach him a lesson. Shen looked at the white-haired and white-browed old man nearby. He was the Shen family's Supreme Elder and said flatteringly, Humph. The Shen family's Supreme Elder snorted coldly. It was unknown if he was expressing his dissatisfaction with Shen or Duan Lingtian, who was standing in the distance. The Shen family's clan leader has been defeated. According to the agreement between the Shen family's clan leader and Duan Lingtian, the Shen family's Supreme Elder will make a move. The Shen family's clan leader ought to go invite the Shen family's Supreme Elder now. Although that Duan Lingtian defeated the Shen family's clan leader, it was extremely difficult. The Shen family's Supreme Elder is in existence at the 5th level of the Void Interpretation stage, and his strength far surpasses the Shen family's clan leader. It's impossible for this Duan Lingtian to be a match for him. The Ye family will be unable to escape calamity in the end. The surrounding spectators discussed animatedly. Brother Lingtian, so long as you're able to defeat our Shen family's Supreme Elder, I'll keep my promise. But I have to remind you that the strength of our Shen family's Supreme Elder is far stronger than me. If he exerts his full strength, it's sufficient to defeat me in a single move. Shendong looked at Duan Lingtian as he spoke with a serious expression. Jin Archen, since I've decided to help the Ye family, I'll naturally help them until the end. Ask your Shen family's Supreme Elder to come out. Duan Lingtian was magnanimous as he stood there proudly and fearlessly. Truly a newborn calf that isn't afraid of a tiger. Shendong shook his head and sighed. Yet he didn't say anything. He turned around to look at the white-haired and white-browed old man that stood at the front of the Shen family and said respectfully, Supreme Elder, about today's matter I roughly already know the sequence of events for today's matter. Since someone came to slap our Shen family's face, then our Shen family naturally can't be a coward. The old man interrupted Shendong and instantly vanished on the spot, and when he appeared once more, He was already before Duan Lingtian. Senior, you're the Shun family's supreme elder? Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted slightly, as if he was shocked by the old man's speed. Exactly. The old man nodded. Instantly, the surrounding crowd of spectators were surprised. He's the Shun family's supreme elder? I saw him standing on the Shun family's side since long ago, but I never imagined that he's the Shun family's supreme elder. With the speed Senior revealed earlier, if I'm not wrong, Senior ought to have already broken through to the 6th level of the void interpretation stage now, right? Duan Lingtian glanced deeply at the old man and asked bluntly. 6th level of the void interpretation stage. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the surroundings went deathly silent, and the gazes of everyone descended onto the white-haired and white-browed old man in unison. Little fellow, your eyesight isn't bad. The old man glanced at Duan Lingtian with slight surprise, and his words obviously confirmed Duan Lingtian's words. For a time, the surroundings were in an uproar. The Shun family's supreme elder has broken through to the 6th level of the void interpretation stage? The #1 expert of Drift Cloud Town really deserves his reputation. Oh. Chapter 847. 6th level of the void interpretation stage? Yi Ting stood at the side. At this moment he seemed to be out of tune with the surrounding atmosphere. At the same time his face was completely gloomy. The Ye family is finished. Yi Ting's eyes were filled with sadness as he muttered to himself, I, Yi Ting, have let down the ancestors of the Ye family. Senior, can we begin? Duan Lingtian looked at the old man with a calm expression and asked, You know that our supreme elder is a 6th level void interpretation stage powerhouse, yet you still dare to make a move? You've really eaten the guts of a leopard. Shunan looked at Duan Lingtian from afar and mocked. Duan Lingtian glanced at Shun and indifferently and ignored him. Instead, he looked at the old man. Little fellow, your cultivation has already broken through to the 4th level of the void interpretation stage at such a young age. Your innate talent is really rare. As long as you promise not to interfere in the matters of the Ye family, my Shun family will let bygones be bygones and even treat you as an honored guest. How about it? The old man asked with a calm tone. His tone was filled with the intention of cherishing talent. The old man's words shocked the surrounding crowd to the point they were in an uproar. Never had they imagined that the supreme elder of the Shun family would actually value Duan Lingtian so much. However, with a quick thought they came to an understanding. Duan Lingtian's innate talent was indeed worthy of being valued by anyone. Senior, I'm used to seeing things through to the end. Duan Lingtian tactfully declined the old man's good intentions. Since it's like this, then accompany this old man to loosen up my bones. I haven't fought for many years. The old man twisted his neck, and the origin energy on his body rose up and caused the heaven and earth energy to surge. In a short moment it formed the heaven and earth phenomenon. In the sky 80 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes condensed into form. Whoosh! Soon, the milky white origin energy on the old man's body changed and instantly transformed into a fiery red ocean that enveloped the old man. Raging flames shot up into the sky. In the sky, the heaven and earth phenomenon changed as another 60 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared. 5th level intermediate concept of fire. At some point in time, a giant hammer appeared in the old man's right hand. In the blink of an eye, the giant hammer was submerged in the sea of fire and burned brightly. Whoosh! Another 55 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared. It was the amplification effect of the giant hammer that was a grade 3 spirit weapon, and it was ready to be unleashed. When the old man attacked with his full strength, his strength was comparable to the strength of 195 ancient horned dragons. Compared to Duan Lingtian, there was a total of 44 ancient horned dragons' strength. They were not on the same level at all. If there were no surprises, Duan Lingtian's defeat was a foregone conclusion. This was also the thought in the hearts of the onlookers. It's over. Yi Ting looked at the scene in front of him and was completely disheartened. If not for the many pairs of eyes watching him, he would have secretly run away. As far as he was concerned, Duan Lingtian would probably be defeated in a single move when encountering the supreme elder of the Shen family. When Duan Lingtian was defeated, it would be the time when the Ye family was doomed. Senior, please. Under the gazes of the crowd, Duan Lingtian stood with his hands behind his back. Not only did he not circulate his origin energy and concept to accumulate strength, he did not even take out his spirit weapon. Little fellow, looks like you don't take this old fellow seriously. Today, let this old fellow teach you proper manners. When he saw Duan Lingtian acting so casually, the old man naturally believed that Duan Lingtian was looking down on him. He instantly shouted in a low voice and moved, his figure vanishing into the air. Of course, he did not truly vanish, but his speed was too fast. It was so fast that most of the people present could not catch a trace of the old man's figure. Although most people could not catch a trace of the old man's figure, it did not mean that Duan Lingtian could not. Besides the old man, Duan Lingtian and the patriarch of the Shen family, Shan Dong, had the highest cultivation. Although the old man's speed was fast, they could still clearly catch a glimpse of it. 1,000 illusions. Without any hesitation, a dim light flickered in the depths of Duan Lingtian's eyes. His vast spiritual energy pierced into the soul brand in the depths of his soul and executed his exclusive soul skill. His spiritual force swept out through the soul brand to construct an illusory space that enveloped down with Duan Lingtian at the center. All of this was naturally invisible to the onlookers. The surrounding crowd only saw the supreme elder of the Shun family appear in front of Duan Lingtian in the blink of an eye and raise the enormous hammer that was coiled with blazing flames above his head. Looks like Duan Lingtian has given up on resisting. He's courting death. The surrounding crowd shook their heads. When they saw that Duan Lingtian had not utilized his origin energy or concept until now, they only thought that Duan Lingtian was courting death. However, in the next moment, their pupils could not help but constrict. They were shocked to see that after the supreme elder of the Shun family raised the enormous hammer that was coiled with blazing flames above his head, he actually did not smash it down towards Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! The supreme elder of the Shun family's enormous hammer did descend, but it smashed towards the space not far away from Duan Lingtian. The hammer that contained the strength of 195 ancient horned dragons shook the air to the point the airflow in the air swiftly compressed together. Bang! Finally, the airflow exploded, and a deafening sound of air exploding resounded out. Some of the surrounding people with comparatively lower cultivations were shaken by this sound of air exploding to the point they bled from all 7 apertures and could not help but let out shrill cries. Along with the sound of air exploding out, a terrifying wave of air swept out in all directions and set off a wave of scorching heat. The clothes of some people that were closer to the explosion even started to burn. My clothes are on fire. Who has comprehended water concept? Help me put out the fire quickly. My legs have been burned to the point I can't feel them. It's almost reaching my family jewels. Ah! Help! Help! For a time, the surrounding people whose clothes were on fire screamed out shrilly. Whoosh! Before the crowd could even react, the enormous hammer in the hand of the Shun family's supreme elder descended once again. This time he turned around and smashed towards the space on the other side. Run quickly! The supreme elder of the Shun family has gone mad. Run quickly! Instantly, the surrounding people fled one after another, leaving behind a large empty space for a time. Bang! The enormous hammer smashed into the space and set off a terrifying sound of air exploding once again. It shook many people to the point they bled from all 7 apertures. At the same time, it set off a terrifying wave of air that swept out in all directions. The wave of air contained the scorching aura of flames, causing the surrounding people to feel extremely hot. Many people were so hot that they were sweating profusely. Duan Lingtian stood in the air and looked at the supreme elder of the Shun family as if nothing had happened. The sound of air exploding and the heat wave had no effect on him at all. Bang! 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 The supreme elder of the Shun family continued to smash his hammer, causing the surrounding people to retreat one after another. They did not dare to approach him. The remaining people who were relatively close to him were a group of martial artists at the void interpretation stage and above. The patriarch of the Shen family, Shan Dong, was among them. Shan Dong had been stunned for a long time. He only managed to regain his senses at this moment. Looking at the supreme elder who was still madly smashing the enormous hammer in his hand in the air, he hurriedly reminded him, "Supreme elder, wake up. Unfortunately, no matter what method he used, he was unable to make the Grand Elder of the Chun family regain his senses. What's wrong with the Supreme Elder? Everyone from the Shun family was dumbstruck, and they did not know what had happened. Damn it! Since when did the Grand Supreme Elder suffer from the illness of losing his mind? That Duan Lingtian is really lucky and just happened to encounter the Supreme Elder losing his mind. Otherwise he would surely be dead this time. Shannon spoke with a gloomy expression. Impossible. The Supreme Elder absolutely did not lose his mind. I think that the reason the Supreme Elder is like this is because of that Duan Lingtian. Shun Lei stared at Duan Lingtian with a burning gaze as he spoke of his own judgment. How could this be possible? Shunan did not believe it, and he sneered. Third Elder, I admit that your strength is extremely strong, but only brute force is useless. That Duan Lingtian is merely at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage. How could he make the Supreme Elder, who is at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage, like this? Although I don't know how he did it, but could it be that you don't think it's strange? Shun Lei spoke in a low voice. Earlier, even when he discerned that the Supreme Elder was a 6th level void interpretation stage expert, that Duan Lingtian did not have any terrified or fearful expression, and he instead seemed to be extremely confident and composed. Besides that, even when the Supreme Elder revealed his strength and utilized all his ability to draw upon the energy of heaven and earth to form 195 ancient horned dragon silhouettes, that Duan Lingtian was not prepared at all. Not only did he not withdraw his spirit weapon, he even did not utilize his origin energy or concept. At that time my thoughts were the same as yours and the thoughts of everyone present. We only thought that Duan Lingtian was courting death. But now it would seem that he was absolutely not courting death. And he had a way to deal with the Supreme Elder. Just like now, he's standing not far from the Grand Elder. But the Grand Elder doesn't seem to be able to see him. Instead he's attacking the air. What does this mean? It means that all of this was done by him. After Shun Lei finished speaking, it caused Shunan to go silent as well. Everyone in the Shin family nodded in succession, and they all felt that what Shun Lei said was reasonable. At the same time their hearts were filled with surprise. Never had they imagined that their Shun family's 3rd elder, who had always been known for his rough and violent temper, would actually have such a meticulous side to him. Shun Lei's judgment quickly entered into the ears of the others, and it caused them to nod in succession. Looks like the Ye family really came prepared this time. I truly never imagined that the young man invited by the Ye family would be so terrifying. Not only did he defeat the Shen family's patriarch in a head-on battle, he even relied on unfathomable methods to make the Shen family's supreme elder seem as if he'd gone mad. The Ye family is going to be in the limelight this time. The surrounding crowd of spectators discussed animatedly. Many people who were familiar with Yiting even flew towards the stunned Yiting and greeted him warmly. Ha! Patriarch of the Ye family, long time no see. Patriarch of the Ye family, you should still remember me, right? I'm Old Wang and we even had a meal together half a month ago. Patriarch of the Ye family. Chapter 848. Naturally he knew these people. Not long after he and Duan Lingtian had arrived in the sky above the Shen family's mansion and shouted out those provocative words to the Shen family, he had noticed these people mixed in with the crowd of onlookers. At that time, he had clearly seen the gazes of these people when they looked at him. It was a gaze that could not wait to sever all ties with him, and was deeply afraid of getting into trouble. In fact, before this moment, none of these people who used to call him brothers had even taken the initiative to greet him, even if it was just a single sound transmission. Now Duan Lingtian had the Shen family's grand elder, the most powerful person in the Shen family, in the palm of his hand. Seeing that the Ye family had gained power, these people could not wait to come forward. For a moment, Yiting felt his heart turn as cold as ice. Of course, Yiting did not ignore these people because these people were more or less related to the Ye family. His Ye family still had many things to rely on them. Patriarch of the Ye family, who is that? A group of people surrounded Yiting and sized up the purple-clothed young man from afar. Their eyes were filled with fear and respect as they asked Yiting curiously. After all, this purple-clothed young man had come with Yiting to stand up for the Ye family. He is my daughter's friend. Yi Ting said with a smile. Now, he looked at Duan Lingtian with a complicated gaze. Earlier, when he saw that Duan Lingtian's strength could not possibly defeat the Shun family's Grand Elder, his heart had already sunk to the bottom of the valley. He was no longer as high-spirited as he was when he first arrived. However, just when he was completely disheartened and felt that the Ye family was about to be destroyed, Duan Lingtian made such a move for him. For a moment, his heart that had fallen from heaven to hell had once again soared from hell to heaven. He knew that his daughter was saved. The Ye family was saved. Is he a friend of your daughter? Immediately, the eyes of the people around Yi Ting lit up. Some of them even asked ambiguously, head of the Ye family, is it possible between him and your daughter? If your Ye family can get such a good son-in-law, you can completely override the Shin family and become the #1 family in Drifting Cloud Town. When Yi Ting heard this, he looked at the purple-clothed youth standing proudly in the distance and smiled bitterly. He could see that his daughter had a good opinion of this handsome and outstanding young man. Judging from his daughter's opinion alone, it was entirely possible for them to develop a relationship. But the problem was the other party had no intention of doing that at all. He was an experienced person, so he could naturally see that this young man's love for his daughter came from the love of an older brother to his younger sister. There was nothing else in it. I'm afraid that he won't take a fancy to my daughter. Yi Ting sighed. He knew that for a proud son of heaven like Duan Lingtian, his daughter was destined to be just a passerby in his life. When they heard Yi Ting's words, the surrounding people were not surprised. Even if he can't marry your daughter, with his friendship with your daughter, as long as he remembers to visit the Ye family in Drifting Cloud Town often, it will be enough to ensure the peace of your Ye family for the rest of your life. Another person said, yes, head of the Ye family, your daughter has really met a benefactor this time. Everyone looked at Yi Ting with envy. When Yi Ting heard this, his mood improved a lot. Boom, 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 boom. The Grand Elder of the Shun family was still waving the giant hammer in his hand. As the hammer fell, a terrifying explosion sounded in the air and set off rolling heat waves. Now, the Grand Elder of the Shin family was like a madman in the eyes of the surrounding people. Brother Lingtian, what did you do to the Grand Elder? Finally, the head of the Shin family, Shun Dong, gave up on the idea of waking the Grand Elder. Earlier, he had not only tried to wake the Grand Elder with words, but he had also tried to subdue the Grand Elder. However, every time he tried to get close to the Grand Elder would hit him with his hammer. He was so frightened that he did not dare to get close to the Grand Elder again. In the end, no matter how unwilling he was, he could only lower his head and compromise with Duan Lingtian. What? Jinart Shen, are you going to represent the Shen family and admit defeat? If that's the case, do you still remember the agreement between us? Duan Lingtian asked with a faint smile. Chan Dong laughed bitterly, and then he nodded. Yes, we lost. From today onwards, the engagement between the Ye family and the Shun family is cancelled. Father. Shun En, who was standing in the middle of the Shun family in the distance, suddenly changed his expression. He took a step forward and roared furiously, I don't agree. Yixian is my fiancé. I don't agree to cancel the engagement. Duan Lingtian frowned and looked at Shun En. So this person was the playboy of the Shin family who was engaged to Yixian. No wonder he felt that this person was hating him. It turned out that he was the person involved. Duan Lingtian ignored Shun An's roar. Instead, he looked at Shun Dong calmly. He believed that Shun Dong would solve this matter. Shut up. Shun Dong glared angrily at Chun and as he scolded with a cold voice. Second brother, put away those tricks of yours. From now on, if you dare to say another word, get out of the Shun family immediately. After being scolded by Shun Dong, Shinan was dumbfounded. However, he didn't dare to say anything else. What a joke. Get out of the Shin family? He wouldn't dare to do that even if he was beaten to death. After leaving the Shin family, he was nothing. On this point, he was still aware of his own limitations. Shinan stared at Duan Lingtian with hatred. He gritted his teeth and his heart was filled with hatred. It's all because of Duan Lingtian. It's all because he meddled in other people's business. At this moment, Shen couldn't wait to cut Duan Lingtian into pieces. However, when he thought about how Duan Lingtian could toy with the Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Duan Lingtian, I will definitely not let you off. Definitely. Shen An's eyes were filled with a sinister glow as he roared furiously in his heart. Brother Lingtian, the marriage agreement between the Ye family and the Shen family no longer exists from today onwards. In addition, the Shen family will not cause trouble for the Ye family because of this matter. Shen Dong looked at Duan Lingtian with a sincere expression. After saying this, he looked at the old man who was still crazy and laughed bitterly. Now, can you let the Grand Supreme Elder return to normal? He's more normal than anyone else, Duan Lingtian said indifferently. At the same time, he used his spiritual power and withdrew his soul skill Thousand Illusions. The illusory space that enveloped the Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family also dissipated. Naturally, the Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family didn't go crazy. He was only attacking the imaginary him in the illusory space. After the illusory space disappeared, the Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family saw Duan Lingtian. He immediately raised the huge hammer in his hand and wanted to attack again. Brother Lingtian, what are you doing? I've already done as you said. Why are you still not letting the Grand Supreme Elder go? A familiar and deep voice entered the ears of the Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family, and he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Family head, what did you say? You asked him to let me go? The Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family frowned and looked at Shen Dong. Then he scolded angrily, fool. Didn't you see that he could only dodge my attacks? If you give me more time, I'll definitely smash him into a meat patty. The Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family scolded Shen Dong. For a moment, Shen Dong was stunned. Then his eyes lit up. Grand Supreme Elder, are you awake? I've been awake all this time. The Grand Supreme Elder of the Shen family frowned and said impatiently, okay, go play somewhere else. After I smash this hateful guy into a meat patty, we'll talk about it again. As he spoke, he turned around and prepared to attack Duan Lingtian again. Jinart Shun, if this senior attacks again, I don't mind letting him go crazy again. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a cold smile as he spoke directly to Shen Dong. Don't. Shen Dong panicked. He quickly stood in front of Duan Lingtian and protected Duan Lingtian behind him. He looked at the old man with a bitter smile. Grand Supreme Elder, you've already lost. There's no need to continue this battle. What do you mean I've already lost? Family head, how old are you? Have you become muddle-headed? The old man snorted with dissatisfaction. Supreme Elder, if you don't believe me, you can ask Second Elder, Third Elder, and the others. Earlier, when Duan Lingtian stood there, from the beginning until the end, you didn't touch him at all, and only attacked the air by yourself. Shen Dong was really afraid that the old man would attack Duan Lingtian. At that time, Duan Lingtian would definitely use his unpredictable methods to deal with the old man. Who knew if Duan Lingtian's technique would leave behind any side effects when it was used on a person? The Grand Supreme Elder was the backbone of the Shen family. He couldn't afford to lose him. What? Hearing Shen Dong's serious words, the old man was stunned. How is that possible? I was clearly chasing after that brat just now, but he was running fast, so I didn't hit him. When did I attack the air? Grand Supreme Elder, what the family head said is true. At this moment, Shen Lei looked at the old man and smiled wryly. Yes, Grand Supreme Elder, we saw it with our own eyes. The other members of the Shen family nodded, proving that what Shen Dong and Shen Lei said was true. For a moment, the old man couldn't help but fall silent. He also noticed the gazes that swept over him. He faintly realized that he might have really done those ridiculous things just now. Suddenly, the old man's mind flashed. He looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a complicated gaze, Did I fall into the illusion that you created just now? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded and didn't deny it. But I clearly didn't sense any aura of an inscription or an inscription formation. The old man frowned. Although he wasn't an inscription master, he was confident that he could easily sense the aura of an inscription or an inscription formation. I didn't use an inscription or an inscription formation. Duan Lingtian shook his head. This is a technique that I have mastered. As for what technique it is, it's inconvenient for me to tell you. Hearing this, the old man sighed and turned around to leave. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the Shen family's mansion. Brother Ling Tian, how about coming to the Shen family's mansion for a chat? Chapter 849. Okay. Duan Lingtian had a good impression of Shundong's forthrightness and magnanimity, so he immediately agreed. Yeah, family head. Please help me pass the message to Xiaoxian. Also, I may have to stay with the Ye family for a while. Duan Lingtian looked at Yiting and said with a smile, this time Ye family head, you won't ask me to leave the Ye family again, right? Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the surrounding people were petrified. The head of the Ye family, Yiting, once asked Duan Lingtian to leave the Ye family? Is Yiting crazy? That's right. You can't find such a guest even if you break a lantern, but he actually asked him to leave the Ye family? Shay. Immediately, many people looked at Yiting with a strange expression. They would never have thought that the head of the Ye family, Yiting, would treat Duan Lingtian that way. Fortunately, Duan Lingtian did not care about the past. Otherwise, would the Ye family still exist? No, of course not. Yiting hurriedly shook his head with a bitter smile. If he had known earlier that Duan Lingtian was so powerful, he would not have dared to treat Duan Lingtian that way even if he was given 100 times more courage. Now that he thought about it, he could not help but feel a lingering fear. If his daughter and Duan Lingtian did not have a close relationship, he was afraid that he would not have been able to escape this calamity. Brother Lingtian, if you don't mind, you can stay with the Shen family for as long as you want. What do you think? Hearing that Duan Lingtian was going to stay in Driftcloud Town for a while, Shundong's eyes lit up and he took the initiative to invite him. Hearing Shundong's invitation, Yiting's face sank, but he didn't dare to say anything. It was not up to him to decide where Duan Lingtian would go. If Duan Lingtian really wanted to stay in the Shen family, there was nothing he could do. Now, he only hoped that Duan Lingtian would return to the Ye family for a period of time for his daughter's sake. In that case, the Ye family's status in Drifting Cloud Town would definitely rise. As the head of the family, he had many things to consider. Thank you for your kindness, Jean Shen. However, the daughter of the Ye family is my good friend. I have already promised her that as long as I don't leave Driftcloud Town, I will stay with the Ye family. Duan Lingtian said to Shundong. That's too bad. Shundong sighed and then called out, Brother Lingtian, please. Seeing Duan Lingtian and Shundong swooping down and entering the Shen family's mansion, Shunen, who was walking among the Shen family's people, looked even more gloomy. Duan Lingtian, if you have the guts, then stay in Driftcloud Town. When my eldest brother comes back, I will let his master teach you a lesson. Shunan's face was cold, his eyes flashed, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Yiting breathed a sigh of relief, and a happy smile appeared on his face. Ye family head, congratulations. From now on, your Ye family will be different from before. Many people congratulated. Ye family head, I'm sorry about last time, but we really need that batch of goods urgently. How about this, we will rush out another batch of goods after a while and sell them to your Ye family at half price. Another person said to Yiting with a flattering smile. Boss, who, if we sell them at half price, won't your Chamber of Commerce suffer a great loss? The cost of that batch of goods is more than half price, right? Yiting looked at the person who spoke in shock. Ye family head, I won't beat around the bush. It doesn't matter if I give you that batch of goods. However, you have to introduce me to that little brother. The latter laughed mischievously. In the main hall of the Shen family's mansion, Duan Lingtian sat at the head of the table, and below him sat the Shen family head, Shundong, and the third elder, Shun Lei. Brother Lingtian, may I ask where you are from? Shundong asked curiously. Jean Shen, didn't I tell you before that even if I told you where I came from, you wouldn't know? Duan Lingtian shook his head and then said, however, since you really want to know, it doesn't matter if I tell you. I'm from the Dark Han Dynasty. Dark Han Dynasty? Shundong and Shun Lei looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. It was obvious that they had never heard of such a place. Shundong smiled awkwardly and then asked, Then Brother Ling Tian, can you tell me what's your relationship with the Ye family? Shindong still felt slightly bad about Duan Ling Tian helping the Ye family to cause trouble today. Where did this little monster come from? Why did he have to help the Ye family? I owe Miss Ye family a favor. Duan Ling Tian's answer was very straightforward, and then he added, this favor can't be repaid in my lifetime. Shindong originally heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Duan Ling Tian say that he owed Miss Ye family a favor. He felt that Duan Ling Tian had already repaid Miss Ye family's favor by causing trouble earlier. However, Shindong couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard Duan Ling Tian's last sentence. That Ye family's miss is really lucky. She actually made Brother Ling Tian owe her such a huge favor. I don't think she's lucky. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled gently. She's very kind. If it wasn't for her, it's very likely that I'd be dead now. Duan Ling Tian's words caused Shindong and Shun Lei to turn pale with fright. According to Duan Ling Tian's words, the Ye family's miss had actually saved his life? No wonder he said he couldn't repay it in his lifetime. So it was a life-saving grace. Brother Ling Tian, may I ask how the Ye family's miss saved you? Shun Lei asked curiously. Shindong looked at Duan Ling Tian as well. He was obviously extremely curious as well. He knew of the Ye family's miss, and she was a little girl that hadn't even stepped into the void prying stage. Logically speaking, it was utterly impossible for that little bit of strength to help Duan Ling Tian, let alone save Duan Ling Tian. Some time ago, when I was cultivating, my origin energy went astray and I suffered chi deviation. After that, I fainted outside Driftcloud Town, and it was she who brought me back to the Ye family. I slept for an entire 18 days before waking up today. If it wasn't for her, I might have already been eaten by those wild beasts, fierce beasts, and even demon beasts. When Duan Ling Tian mentioned Yixian, the smile on his face was warm. He'd completely taken that kind little girl to be his own younger sister now. Actually, after he woke up today, he still felt a wave of lingering fear. Fortunately, he'd encountered such a kind little girl. If it was another person with bad intentions, then that person would probably kill him for the sake of the spatial ring in his hand. The spatial ring in his hand had established ownership with his blood, and unless he took the initiative to remove the ownership, or perhaps he himself had died. Otherwise, it was impossible for others to establish ownership of the spatial ring a second time. It was precisely because of this that he felt gratitude from the bottom of his heart towards that kind little girl, Yixian. Shindong and Shun Lei looked at each other and laughed bitterly. Never had they imagined that the ins and outs of the matter would actually be like this. They asked themselves if they encountered the unconscious Duan Ling Tian, and under the circumstances that they didn't know the Duan Ling Tian, they would probably take off the Duan Ling Tian's spatial ring and kill the Duan Ling Tian. After all, it was a windfall that came for free. The young miss of the Ye family is really kind. That little bastard of mine is indeed not worthy of her. Shindong sighed. When he heard Shindong mention that good-for-nothing son of his, Duan Ling Tian seemed to have thought of something, and his face sank slightly. Jinart Shun, I admire your character, but in terms of teaching your son, I beg to differ. I heard that your son has practically committed all sorts of crimes in Driftcloud Town. Moreover, there were even many good girls that committed suicide or harmed themselves because of him. As he finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian's body emitted a strong murderous aura. He knew that he wasn't a saint, and he didn't want to save the world or anything like that. However, the actions of that good-for-nothing son of the Shen family still crossed his bottom line. Brother Ling Tian, you're right, I didn't teach my son well. Shindong laughed bitterly. He was naturally clear about the things that his son had done, and had also taught him many times. Because of this, who knew how many vines he had broken? However, his son didn't repent, and he gradually became too lazy to care about him. Otherwise, what else could he do? Kill his own son with his own hands? Jinart Shun, for your sake, I won't care about what happened in the past. But from now on, if I hear that your son has done anything that infuriates the heavens again, don't blame me for not showing mercy. After Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, he suddenly stood up. The current him was no longer in the mood to continue staying in the Shen family. Jinart Shun, third elder Shen, I'll take my leave. Duan Ling Tian said goodbye to Shindong and Shun Lei, and then left directly. When Shun Dong and Shun Lei reacted, Duan Lingtian had already left the Shun family hall and disappeared in front of their eyes. Ha 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 ha. Unexpectedly, after Duan Lingtian left, Shun Dong laughed. Family head, you. Shun Lei was dumbfounded. He said that he was going to kill your son and you're still laughing? From now on, I'll see if that little bastard still dares to mess around. Shun Dong muttered to himself, and then he directly left the Chun clan's main hall to look for his youngest son. All these years, his youngest son had been so bold because he was relying on the power of the Shun family. The Shun family was the #1 family in Drifting Cloud Town, and no one dared to provoke the Shun family. Now there was someone who was not afraid of the Shun family threatening his son. This gave him hope. This time there was finally someone who could control his son. He broke into the courtyard where Shunen lived, and scolded Shunen, who had just returned and had not even warmed his seat. He also passed on Duan Lingtian's words to him. Without waiting for Shunen to come back to his senses, Shun Dong left in high spirits. Duan Lingtian. Shin An's expression was extremely ugly. He raised his hand and smashed the only stone table in the courtyard. He gritted his teeth and said, "Not only did you ruin the good thing between me and Yi Xian, you even dare to control me. I will definitely kill you. Definitely." Shun An's eyes were filled with a cold light as he gritted his teeth and said hatefully, "Yeah, family mansion. Young Master Duan, family head and the elders have been waiting for a long time. Please come in." Duan Lingtian had just arrived at the gate when he was respectfully welcomed by a Ye family member. "Thank you, young Master Duan." As soon as he entered, Duan Lingtian heard a wave of orderly and deafening voices, and when he raised his head to look over, he noticed that Yi Ting had actually led a group of people to bow and thank him in unison. Chapter 850. Patriarch of the Ye family, what are you doing? Duan Lingtian was shocked by the array of people in front of him. Most of the people around Yi Ting were elderly. In terms of age, they were old enough to be his grandfather. But now these old men were bowing to him, which made him feel a little uneasy. "Brother Duan, thank you for what you have done for the Ye family. From today onwards, you are the most distinguished guest of the Ye family. If you need anything, the Ye family will do our best to help you." Yi Ting spoke with a serious expression. "Patriarch of the Ye family, you don't have to do this." Duan Lingtian shook his head and frowned. "Besides, I don't like this. Ask them to disperse. Xiao Xian, let's go back." As Duan Lingtian spoke, he called out to Yi Xian and left. At that moment, only Yi Ting and the rest were left with a bitter smile on their faces. The group of Ye family elders looked at Duan Lingtian's back as he left. Their faces were full of respect. They had heard about what had happened at the Shun family's mansion from the patriarch. It was the entire Ye family's blessing that this young man in purple was willing to stay with them. Even though this was only temporary. "Elder brother Duan, I heard from my father. You are really amazing." On the way back, Yi Xian looked at Duan Lingtian with admiration and sighed. "If only I were as amazing as you. Then I would be able to help my father protect the Ye family." "Silly girl, you are still so young." Duan Lingtian patted Yi Xian's head lovingly and smiled. "If you really want to cultivate, elder brother Duan will teach you a set of techniques." "Really?" Yi Xian's eyes lit up when she heard this. In her opinion, since elder brother Duan was so strong, the techniques that he brought out would definitely not be something that the Ye family's techniques could compare to. Of course. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded, as if he was coaxing a child. Of course, Yi Xian was only a 16 or 17-year-old girl. In his eyes, she was no different from a child. In Duan Lingtian's memories, there was no lack of cultivation methods. He casually took out a set of cultivation techniques left behind by the reincarnation Emperor Wu. And it was not something the Ye family's cultivation techniques could compare to. In addition, he could also teach Yi Xian some martial techniques that were suitable for her. He didn't lack pills or spirit tools, so he could easily refine them. To a certain extent, Yi Xian had saved his life and was his savior. Therefore, he would do his best to repay this great kindness. Of course, he also liked Yi Xian very much and completely treated Yi Xian as his own biological sister. "If father and mother could give me a younger brother or sister, How good would that be? Duan Lingtian sighed. In his previous life he was an orphan. He had no parents, not to mention brothers or sisters. He only had a group of comrades who had gone through fire and water with him, and in the end all of them stayed on the battlefield forever. This was the most important reason why he chose to retire. In his previous life he wished so much for a warm family, but that was destined to be a delusion. To be able to come to this world was undoubtedly a gift from the heavens. In this world he had parents and people he cared about. If his parents could give him a younger brother and a younger sister, it would undoubtedly be even more perfect. Duan Lingtian temporarily stayed with the Ye family, because he still didn't understand the situation outside Driftcloud Town. Who knew if he would encounter an expert he couldn't deal with once he went out and be directly killed? He wasn't alone now, so he didn't dare take the risk. In the next few days, Duan Lingtian had a certain understanding of the eastern area of the northern desert from Yixian. Firstly, there were a total of 3 great forces in the eastern area of the northern desert. Of course, in the entire foreign lands, these 3 great forces could only be considered as third-rate forces because they were similar to the Skywolf Fort, Blade Sect, Empyrean Temple, and Emotion Severing Sect in the southern of the northern desert. The 3 great forces were the 5-Element Sect, Crimson Moon Sect, and Flying Sand Sect. I heard that the eldest young master of the Shen family, Chan Wei, entered the 5-Element Sect a long time ago. Yixian said, in our Driftcloud Town, everyone would give a thumbs up when Chan Wei is mentioned, but so long as his younger brother, Shun En, is mentioned, then everyone would scoff at him. As she finished speaking, Yixian wrinkled her cute little nose. Shun En was precisely that profligate disciple she was almost forced to marry. Chen Wei? 5-Element Sect? Duan Lingtian's brows raised. He never imagined that the Shun family's patriarch, Shun Dong, would have such a promising son, and Chen Wei was a complete opposite of Shun En. Since the 5-Element Sect was one of the 3 great forces in the eastern area of the northern desert, then it was presumably extremely strict when it recruited disciples. It was impossible for someone without a certain amount of natural talent and comprehension ability to join the sect. Looks like the saying that the dragon has 9 sons, and each one is different isn't false in the slightest. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Right, elder brother Duan, when I went out yesterday I heard of something. Yixian looked at Duan Lingtian, and her beautiful face carried slight worry. What is it? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be slightly curious when he saw Yixian's expression. I heard that in a few days the members of the 5-Element Sect will be stopping by our Driftcloud Town, and they seem to be recruiting void interpretation stage martial artists below the age of 40. When she spoke up to hear, Yixian frowned. Besides Chen Wei, who's already entered the 5-Element Sect, there's probably no other void interpretation stage martial artist below the age of 40 in a small place like our Driftcloud Town. So, I guess that Chen Wei is amongst the members of the 5-Element Sect, and he's probably using this opportunity to come back and visit his family. Elder brother Duan, why don't you go lie low for a few days, as I'm worried Chen Wei will look for trouble with you. As she finished speaking, Yixian had a worried expression. The 5-Element Sect? Recruiting void interpretation stage martial artists below the age of 40? Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Yixian, and then a flash of inspiration appeared in his mind, causing him to be slightly excited in his heart. Could it be that the 5-Element Sect knows of the secret vault left behind by the expert Emperor Wu? Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up, and the more he thought about it, the more certain he was. If it wasn't for this, would the 5-Element Sect send people to recruit disciples? Moreover, there were specific requirements. Below the age of 40, void interpretation stage martial artist? This was no different than the requirements the Skywolf Fort, Blade Sect, Empyrean Temple, and Emotion Severing Sect had when they recruited disciples after the martial competition of the 10 dynasties ended. Looks like this is an opportunity. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as he thought to himself in his heart. During these few days that he was with the Ye family in Driftcloud Town, he'd been thinking about how to leave so as to guarantee that he would be able to safely arrive at the Blade Sect and converge with Feng Qianwu and the others. He believed that his sudden disappearance would surely cause those friends of his to be extremely worried. Now, he finally had an opportunity. The Five Element Sect was his opportunity. The Five Element Sect is obviously making preparations for the secret vault left behind by the expert Emperor Wu. So long as I temporarily join the Five Element Sect, I'll surely head to the secret vault left behind by the expert Emperor Wu. In that way, I'll be able to encounter the members of the Blade Sect, Tian Wu, Su Li, Big Brother Zhang, and the others. Duanling Tian decided in his heart. I presume the Five Element Sect probably won't refuse my entry. Duanling Tian was extremely confident about this. Moreover, it was the time when the Five Element Sect thirsted for geniuses, and it was utterly impossible for them to refuse his entry. Elder brother Duan, did you hear what I said? Yixian couldn't help but laugh bitterly when she noticed Duanling Tian was in a daze, and she stretched out her hand to shake Duanling Tian's arm. Only then did Duanling Tian wake up from his daze. Xiaoxian, what's wrong? Duanling Tian returned to his senses and asked. Elder brother Duan, go lie low for the next few days. Chen Wei has a very good relationship with that good-for-nothing younger brother of his. If he really returns, he'll surely look for trouble with you. Yixian repeated once more, and her beautiful face was filled with anxiousness. Chen Wei? Is he very strong? Duanling Tian smiled confidently. Xiaoxian, don't forget. Even the supreme elder of the Shen family was defeated by me. Could it be that Chen Wei is even stronger than the supreme elder of the Shen family? Elder brother Duan, Chen Wei might not be a match for you. But since the Five Element Sect has come to recruit disciples, there'll surely be some seniors of the sect that came with Chen Wei. I heard that the weakest elder of the Five Element Sect is in existence at the Void Transformation stage or above. Yixian spoke with a worried expression. Even though they aren't members of the Shen family, Chen Wei is a member of the Five Element Sect. If Chen Wei asks them to lend a hand, I presume they won't refuse. She was most worried about this. Even though Chen Wei's strength wasn't bad, it was inferior to the supreme elder of the Shen family, and he wasn't a match for her elder brother Duan. But what about the seniors of the sect that traveled with Chen Wei? Even though she was only the young miss of the tiny Ye family in Driftcloud Town, but to her, the reputation of the Five Element Sect reverberated like thunder, and it was an existence that the Ye family had to look up to. Don't worry, elder brother Duan knows what to do. Duanling Tian was naturally able to discern that Yixian's concern came from the bottom of her heart, and warmth couldn't help but arise in his heart. Then he said with a smile, Xiaoxian, I truly never imagined that you're so young, yet your thoughts are so meticulous. Do you have any plans for the future? I intend to stay by my father's side for my entire life, and help him take care of the Ye family. Yixian spoke seriously. Could it be that you haven't thought of anything else? For example, leaving Driftcloud Town and joining one of the three great powers to properly experience the outside world. Duanling Tian asked. Elder brother Duan, do you think you can join the three great powers just because you want to? Yixian laughed bitterly. 2 years ago, the Crimson Moon Sect's people were widely recruiting disciples, and they passed by our Driftcloud Town and held an examination. But I was eliminated in the first round of the examination. Xiaoxian, believe in elder brother Duan. The current you is different from the previous you. Duanling Tian said with a smile. During these few days of staying in the Ye family, besides passing on some cultivation methods and martial skills to Yixian, Duanling Tian had repeatedly used gentle origin energy and spiritual energy to merge into Yixian's body, and cleansed her meridians and marrow. That was an exclusive method recorded in the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, and although it wasn't as effective as the 10,000-year stalactite milk, it wasn't bad either. Chapter 851. Elder brother Duan, what do you mean by this? Yixian had a bewildered expression. You'll find out in a few days. Duanling Tian smiled mysteriously. Even though it was the first time he'd used that method to cleanse the meridians of another, he could confirm that it was effective. Because it was an exclusive method that Samsara Emperor Wu obtained by chance during his second lifetime, and it was only effective on people below the age of 18 whose meridians hadn't completely formed. Moreover, it required the cooperation of origin energy and spiritual force at the void interpretation stage, or above, to be able to successfully execute it. If he didn't encounter Yixian, Duanling Tian wouldn't know that the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu had this thing. Now, it had come into use on Yixian. Of course, the exact effects of the meridian's cleansing had to wait for a few more days before Yixian would be able to feel it. Elder brother Duan, don't keep me in suspense, quickly tell me. Yixian swung Duan Lingtian's arm as she spoke in a spoiled manner. Presently, it wasn't only Duan Lingtian who took her as his own younger sister. Even she took Duan Lingtian as her older brother. An older brother that she could completely trust. Little girl, you might not believe me even if I tell you now. You'll naturally notice in a few more days. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. All right, then I'll wait a few more days. Yixian let go of Duan Lingtian's arm and nodded obediently. And then she said, Elder brother Duan, it's fine if you don't go hide in a few days. But if Chun Wei brings his seniors from the 5 Elements sect over, you must hide and not come out. Little girl, you don't have to care so much about my matters. Quickly go cultivate. I'll be checking your progress in a few more days. Duan Lingtian smiled as he spoke, and as he finished speaking, he urged Yixian to enter her room to cultivate. Yes. Yixian stuck out her tongue playfully, then ran back to her room to cultivate, but forgot to close the door. This girl. Duan Lingtian revealed a tender expression as he helped Yixian close the door, and then he muttered to himself, perhaps I can consider bringing Shaoxian to the 5 Element sect as well. Based on Duan Lingtian's tone, it seemed as though bringing Yixian to the 5 Elements sect was a very simple matter. Those who didn't know might think that the 5 Elements sect was opened by his family. I ought to cultivate as well. I feel that I'm only a little bit away from breaking through to the 5th level of the void interpretation stage. Once I break through, my strength will increase again. With a thought in his heart, Duan Lingtian directly returned to his room and took out the wind concept fragment before holding it in his hand. He comprehended wind concept as he cultivated. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, sword dragon transformation. Time silently flowed by, and 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. Shun family estate. The Shun family was extraordinarily bustling today, and it was decorated with lanterns and decorations as if they were going to hold a happy occasion. Early in the morning, a long red carpet was laid out before the Shun family's entrance, and it was laid out all the way to the entrance of the Shun family's audience hall. On both sides of the red carpet, there was a servant girl standing at intervals. Not long after, the patriarch of the Shun family, Shan Dong, brought along his youngest son, Shanen, and the group of Shun family elders as they walked out of the entrance of the Shun family estate in a formidable array, and they stood at the entrance as if they were waiting for something. Father, it's Senior Ku and Big Brother. Suddenly, the gaze of Shunan lit up as he looked ahead with pleasant surprise. As he spoke, Shunan moved to greet the 2 people that were walking over from afar. It was a robust old man with a benevolent appearance and a young man around the age of 35. Senior Ku. Shunan took a few steps forward and stood respectfully on the other side of the old man, and he walked side by side with the old man. His tone was extremely humble, and he didn't have the slightest sharpness that he usually had. You're Shunan Chun Wei's younger brother? The old man's muddy eyes lit up with a trace of brilliance as he asked amiably. Senior Ku, it's me. Shunan was obviously very happy that the old man was able to remember him. I remember that when I came to your Shin family all those years ago, you were only 7 or 8 years old, right? In the blink of an eye, that little kid from all those years ago has already grown up. The old man chuckled as he spoke. Chun Wei, I remember that when I first came to your Shin family, it was precisely when you took me as your master. It seems to be 18 years ago, right? The old man looked at the young man beside him, who was Shun An's older brother, Chun Wei, and asked. Chun Wei had a tall figure, and his eyes were bright and full of expression. After he heard the old man's words, he lightly smiled and nodded. Yes, master, it's been 18 years. At that time I was 17 years old, and little An was 7 years old. Time really makes one grow old. In the blink of an eye, 18 years have passed. But unfortunately, during these 18 years, our wood peak is still the same as before, and we're suppressed by the other 3 peaks to the point of being unable to catch our breath. The old man sighed. Now, I only hope to be able to see the wood peak rise once more while I'm still alive. In that way I wouldn't have any regrets. It's I who's useless. Chun Wei spoke hastily. You can't be blamed for this. Early on 20 years ago, when the peak master was heavily injured and went into closed-door cultivation, our wood peak had already started to go downhill. I only hate the other 3 peaks for going too far. They seized the opportunity of the peak master's closed-door cultivation to coerce and lure away all the outstanding disciples of our wood peak, causing our wood peak to have no capable people in the younger generation. When he spoke up to hear, the old man's face flushed red, and he seemed to be slightly agitated. Master, calm down. I believe that our wood peak will surely be able to stand up once more. Master, I'll surely cultivate even more painstakingly in the future, and not bring shame to the wood peak. Chun Wei spoke seriously. All right, it's rare for you to make a trip home, so let's not talk about these unhappy things. The old man looked at the group of people waiting before him and the red carpet on the ground, and he couldn't help but sigh. Didn't I ask you to ask your father not to be so extravagant? You ought to know that Master doesn't mind this. So long as your family is safe and you're able to cultivate in the sect at ease, then Master is satisfied. Master, it's rare for you to come here, so don't mind these details. Chun Wei lightly smiled as he said, Moreover, my father did this because he respects you. Yeah, Senior Ku, you fostered my big brother into a genius, so our Shun family ought to welcome you with the highest etiquette. Shunan spoke out as well. Good. The old man's face was covered in smiles as he arrived at the entrance of the Shun family estate under the escort of Chun Wei and Shun and Elder Ku. Elder Ku. Instantly, all the higher-ups of the Shun family, led by the patriarch of the Shun family, Shan Dong, bowed to the old man in a humble manner. We're all family, there's no need to be courteous. The old man narrowed his eyes and grinned. Family. All the higher-ups of the Shun family instantly beamed with joy. Not everyone could be treated as family by an elder of the 5-element sect. Elder Ku, please come in, we've already prepared a welcoming banquet for you. Shundong personally and respectfully welcomed the old man into the Shun family estate. Eldest young master, we haven't seen each other for many years, and your cultivation has improved again, right? A group of Shun family elders warmly greeted Chun Wei. They felt respect from the bottom of their hearts towards the number 1 person in the younger generation of the Shun family, and the eldest young master of the 5-element sect. Greetings, elders. Chun Wei lightly smiled as he replied. He didn't neglect these elders who had worked hard for the family for most of their lives just because he was a disciple of the 5-element sect. Eldest young master, please come in. The Shun family elders stood at the entrance of the Shun family estate, and opened up a path for Chun Wei to enter first. Elders, all of you are my elders, so all of you should enter first. If all of you don't enter, then I won't enter this house today. Chun Wei seemed to be used to a scene like this, and he directly took out his trump card. Instantly, the group of Shun family elders smiled bitterly as they walked into the Shun family estate. However, their brows were filled with satisfaction towards the eldest young master of the Shun family. Chun Wei and Shunan walked side by side behind the group of Shun family elders, and walked into the Shun family estate. Brother. Suddenly, Shunan looked at Chun Wei, and his expression suddenly changed. His eyes flickered with a fierce light. You must avenge me. If you don't avenge me, then I don't want to live anymore. Chun Wei frowned and his expression sank. What's going on? Speak clearly. Brother, a few days ago, I saw a young man from outside forcefully seizing a woman on the streets. I couldn't stand by idly and wanted to save that woman, but who knew that his strength was formidable, and he blasted me flying with a single palm strike, causing me to fall unconscious. Shunan spoke with a long face. There's someone in Driftcloud Town that our Shun family can't deal with? Chun Wei's expression sank slightly as he asked. Brother, that person said he was a disciple of the 5-element sects would peak. So father and the elders didn't dare touch him. After all, you're in the 5-element sects would peak as well, so father and the elders were afraid it would be difficult for you, so they didn't do anything to him. When Shunan spoke up to hear, he said hatefully, not to mention that, but never had I imagined that he actually forcefully seized the fiancée that I had an engagement with. Brother, I hate him so much, I'm so ruthless. As he finished speaking, Shunan's eyes were filled with frightening cold lights that seemed ready to swallow someone up. He said he's a disciple of our five-element sex wood peak? He said it himself? Chen Wei stopped moving and asked with a low voice. Yes. Shannon nodded, and then he said with a trembling voice. He said he's a high and mighty disciple of the five-element sect, and seizing my fiancé is thinking highly of me and is my fortune. Brother, he's too insulting. Did he say what his name was? Chen Wei's eyes were filled with extreme coldness as he asked with a cold voice. He said he's called Duan Lingtian. Shannon spoke hatefully. Duan Lingtian? Are you sure he's called by this name? Chen Wei frowned as he asked. Yes. Shannon nodded. I clearly remember every single word he said and every single insult he gave me. It's absolutely not wrong. Little and you and father might have been deceived by him. Our wood peak doesn't have a disciple called Duan Lingtian. Chen Wei's voice became even colder. What? Shin An's face went grim. Then wouldn't he be a fellow that's pretending to be a disciple of the five-element sect? Brother, you have to take revenge for me. Take revenge for me. Do you know where he is now? Chen Wei's eyes flickered with cold lights as he asked. Chapter 852. I know. Shannon nodded hatefully and said with a grim voice. He forcefully seized the fiancée that had an engagement with me and forced her family to come to my Shin family before breaking off the engagement. After that, he has always been staying at my fiancée's house. A trace of a cold light faintly flickered in the depths of Shun An's gaze. But unfortunately, Chen Wei didn't notice this. What? Chen Wei's expression became even gloomier when he heard Shun An. As far as he was concerned, if it wasn't for that fellow that pretended to be a disciple of the five-element sex would peak and acted tyrannically, he might even be able to attend his younger brother's wedding this time. But now, he hadn't even attended the wedding, and his younger brother's fiancée had even been seized away. Since he was young, he doted on his younger brother the most, and he gave all the good food and fun things to his younger brother first. Now, when he heard his younger brother had suffered such humiliation, how could he endure it? Big brother, my fiancée is the daughter of the Ye family, Yixian. That fellow is in the Ye family now. You must take revenge for me. Shannon had a sorrowful expression as he added fuel to the fire, and then he stretched out his hand to pull on Chen Wei's arm before walking out hastily. Little and Big Brother knows that you're extremely furious, and Big Brother is extremely furious as well. How about this? I'll go greet Master and Father, and then I'll go with you to the Ye family. No matter what, Master came to our Shin family with great difficulty, and I can't leave him at the side as soon as I return. Chen Wei stopped moving and spoke to Shannon. But how could Shannon allow him to go see his father? Once he saw his father, then wouldn't all the lies he spoke of earlier be exposed? Big brother, I've already endured for a very long time, and I don't want to endure any longer. If you don't want to take revenge for me, then I'll go myself. A wisp of a sly bright light flashed within Shun An's eyes, and then he let go of Chen Wei's arm before transforming into a gust of wind that charged out of the Shun family. Little N. Chen Wei's expression changed. Worried about his younger brother's safety, he hurriedly chased after him. With his speed, it didn't take long for him to catch up with Shun and after leaving the Shin family. I'll go with you. It just so happens that I want to see that person that dares to pretend to be a disciple of our five-element sex would peek and bully others. Because of Shun An's tearful narration just now, his heart was already burning with anger. He couldn't wait to immediately go to the Ye family and expose that person's true colors. It wasn't just that, he wanted to cripple that person's cultivation and bring him back to the five-element sect and there would peak. As far as he was concerned, since that person had actually dared to impersonate a disciple of the Wood Peak and commit acts that infuriated the heavens, then the enforcement elder of the Wood Peak must personally deal with that person. Only in this way would he be able to completely clear the Wood Peak's name. Brother, the entire Ye family has been suppressed by the Duan Lingtian using force. They only listen to his orders. So when we go over later, the Ye family will definitely chase us away. They were forced to act in that way, so you must not blame them. Shannon spoke to Chen Wei with a heavy expression, yet there was slight complacency mixed within the depths of his gaze. What? Chen Wei was slightly shocked when he heard this. The Ye family was suppressed by his force? Didn't you say that Duan Lingtian is only a young man? According to my knowledge, the Ye family's patriarch is in existence at the third level of the void interpretation stage. Could it be that even the Ye family's patriarch is unable to deal with him? Shun An's expression changed imperceptibly, yet he quickly recovered and sighed. Brother, there's something you don't know. That Ye family's patriarch passed away 3 years ago. So that's how it is. Chun Wei nodded, and then he couldn't help but sigh. I remember that when I returned 4 years ago, I'd once paid a visit to the Ye family's patriarch. At that time I didn't notice anything wrong with him. Why did he pass away so quickly? It's truly a pity. I heard he encountered a formidable enemy outside and was heavily injured, leaving behind a hidden illness, and then he wasn't able to hold on and left. Shannon secretly wiped off his cold sweat as he continued. Brother, when you returned 4 years ago, you'd already broken through to the void interpretation stage. What's your cultivation now? Shannon seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but ask. I just broke through to the 4th level of the void interpretation stage last month. Chun Wei said. Yes. Shannon nodded, yet he thought in his heart. Brother is only at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage now, and he's surely not a match for Duan Lingtian. But I never thought that brother would be able to do anything to Duan Lingtian. After all, Duan Lingtian is an existence that can even defeat a supreme elder. Shun An's thoughts were extremely simple. He wanted to make Duan Lingtian injure his brother and infuriate his brother's master, the 5-element sex would Peak's elder Ku Zhang, a formidable existence at the void transformation stage. As far as he was concerned, with how Senior Ku doted on his brother, once his brother was heavily injured by Duan Lingtian, Senior Ku would absolutely not let the matter go. Senior Ku will surely kill Duan Lingtian in his rage. In this way, the hatred in my heart would be resolved. Duan Lingtian, not to mention you broke the engagement between Yi Xian and I, you actually want to interfere in my business? I'll make you die a graveless death. At this moment, Shinan was extremely satisfied with his plan. As far as he was concerned, his plan was perfect and flawless. After a short moment, Shinan and Chun Wei arrived at the entrance of the Ye family's estate. The 2 Ye family disciples that were guarding the entrance went grim when they saw Shan and brother. Let's go in. Shinan completely disregarded the 2 Ye family disciples and directly charged in. Second young master Shan. The 2 Ye family disciples stopped Shan'en, and their expressions changed indeterminately. They were slightly curious. Hadn't the engagement between their Ye family's young miss and this Shun family's profligate disciple been broken off? Why has this profligate disciple come to our Ye family? Moreover, he's come in a menacing manner, and he's obviously come with ill intentions. Could it be that he's not afraid of young Master Duan teaching him a lesson? Right when the 2 Ye family disciples had a myriad of thoughts, Shunan made a move. Bang! Bang! He pushed out 2 palms, one for each, and directly blasted the 2 Ye family disciples flying, causing them to collide with the door's pillar and lose consciousness. Little N. The scene before him suddenly occurred, and Chun Wei only recovered from his shock after Shunan succeeded, and he couldn't help but frown. What are you doing? Brother, don't worry. I only knocked them out. The Ye family is now being threatened by that Duan Lingtian. If I didn't knock them out, they definitely wouldn't dare to let us in. Shinan explained. Chun Wei nodded. Although he felt that something was amiss, he didn't think too much about it. Of course, this was also because he had never doubted his younger brother, and even more so, never thought that his younger brother would lie to him. The 2 brothers, Chun Wei and Shinan, barged into the Ye family and arrived outside the Ye family's main hall. A few Ye family disciples who went forward to inquire were all injured by Shan'an, and this immediately aroused the anger of more powerful Ye family disciples. A group of Ye family disciples attacked one after another. At this moment, Shunan couldn't hold on any longer. Bang! Chun Wei took a step forward, and the robe on his body fluttered without the wind as a boundless enormous force gushed out from his body and directly blasted the group of Ye family disciples flying. The group of Ye family disciples fell to the ground and all emitted muffled groans, yet didn't emit a single shrill cry. Perhaps as far as they were concerned, emitting shrill cries before that good-for-nothing disciple of the Shun family was the greatest humiliation, and they were unable to accept such humiliation. Quickly go look for the patriarch. I'll go look for the grand elder. I'll go look for the second elder. Instantly, besides a portion of the Ye family disciples that were glaring fiercely at Chen Wei and Shan'an, some Ye family disciples left swiftly to notify the patriarch and elders. In a short moment, the Ye family's patriarch, Yi Ting, and a group of Ye family elders gathered together and arrived in a grandiose manner. Patriarch, Grand Elder, Second Elder. The Ye family disciples that surrounded Chen Wei and Shan'an opened up a path and respectfully welcomed Yi Ting and the others in. The expression of Yi Ting, who heard Shan'an had come to cause trouble, was extremely gloomy, but when he walked into the crowd and saw Chen Wei, who was by Shan'an's side, his expression eased up slightly. I was wondering why second young Master Shen would dare trespass into our Ye family estate, so it turns out that eldest young Master Shen has returned. Yi Ting's cold and indifferent gaze swept past Shan'an before descending onto Chen Wei, and his gaze seemed to contain slight fear mixed within. He wasn't afraid of the eldest young master of the Shen family, Chen Wei, but he had no choice but to fear the five-element sect behind Chen Wei. Moreover, he'd heard that not only had Chen Wei entered the five-element sect, he'd even taken an elder of the five-element sect as his master, and this caused him to have no choice but to be afraid. After all, even the weakest elder in the five-element sect was in existence at the void transformation stage or above. An existence like this was sufficient to annihilate their Ye family by relying on the strength of a single person. Ye family's patriarch. Chen Wei nodded to Yi Ting. He'd come with his younger brother today not to denounce the Ye family, but to look for the person that dared impersonate a disciple of the five-element sects would pique and bully others. So, Chen Wei was extremely courteous when facing Yi Ting. Eldest young Master Shen, may I know why you and your younger brother have come here? Yi Ting asked indifferently. Our Ye family seems to have no relationship with your Shen family now, right? Ye family's patriarch, I'm happy for my younger brother, Shan'an, that your daughter is engaged to my Shen family. But no matter what the reason is, you seem to have gone slightly too far by coming to my Shen family to break off the engagement, right? Chen Wei said. Break off the engagement? Yi Ting came to a sudden understanding when he heard Chen Wei. So eldest young Master Shen came for this matter. But could it be that your father didn't tell you that this matter has already come to an end? When he spoke up to hear, Yi Ting looked at Shan'an, and he kept having the feeling that something was slightly off about the matter today. In Drift Cloud Town, Chen Wei's reputation had always been very good, and he was absolutely not an unreasonable person that relied on his position to bully others. But today, he'd come with Shan'an to denounce them, and it was truly slightly strange. Chen Wei hadn't spoken when Shan'an had already said furiously, Yi Ting, you brought that Duan Lingtian to my Shen family to break off the engagement, causing my Shen family to lose face and even forcefully separating me and Xiaoxian. Could it be that you don't feel the slightest bit guilty? As he finished speaking, Shan'an had an agitated expression, and tears flowed down his face. Yi Ting was dumbstruck. The group of Ye family elders were dumbstruck. All the Ye family disciples were dumbstruck. In a few days, Yi Xian had seized back all the origin energy within the medicinal pills, and it was even to the extent that she was only a step away from breaking through to the 8th level of the nascent soul stage. Xiaoxian, even though those medicinal pills are miraculous, they're insufficient to allow you to recover your cultivation in such a short period of time. Could it be that you didn't notice during these past few days that the speed at which you absorbed the origin energy within those medicinal pills has become faster? Duan Lingtian shook his head, and then he asked with a smile. It has become faster. But isn't that because the origin energy within the medicinal pills was originally my origin energy? Yi Xian asked curiously. She didn't know much about those medicinal pills, and she only knew that they were capable of absorbing the origin energy she dispersed. After that, she could take back the origin energy through cultivation. You little girl. Now that you've finished absorbing the elemental energy from the pills, why don't you try absorbing the elemental energy stored in the elemental stones? Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly. He originally thought that after this little girl came out of closed-door cultivation, She would be excited by the natural talent she possessed now, but who knew that she seemed to have not noticed anything? Yixian nodded. Then she sat before the stone table before withdrawing a low-grade origin stone and starting to cultivate on the spot. After over 10 breaths of time, Yixian opened her eyes, and her beautiful face was filled with astonishment. Duan. Elder brother Duan. Why do I feel that the speed at which I absorb the spirit energy within the origin stones is over 10 times faster than before? Even though it isn't as fast as the speed of absorbing the origin energy that belonged to me within those medicinal pills, it isn't much slower. Yixian was slightly absent-minded as she asked. Silly girl. Duan Lingtian shook his head. You wouldn't have forgotten what I said to you a few days ago, right? Do you really think that the cleansing of your meridians and marrow for you was just a mere empty talk? According to his observation, although Yixian's current natural talent was not as good as his when he had consumed the 10,000-year stalactite milk and raised his natural talent to the limit, it was not much worse. Meridians and marrow cleansing. Upon hearing this, Yixian recalled what Duan Lingtian had said to her a few days ago. At that time, Duan Lingtian had said that her natural talent was different from before, but she did not believe it. Now the truth was right in front of her eyes, and she had no choice but to believe it. Elder brother Du, you really raised my natural talent? Yixian looked at Duan Lingtian, and her beautiful face was filled with excitement. Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly. You little girl, even at this point in time you still doubt your elder brother Duan? Do I look so much like a liar? Elder brother Duan, that's not what I meant. Yixian's beautiful face instantly flushed red when she heard Duan Lingtian's words, and she hurriedly explained, I'm just too shocked. Although I know that there are some treasures of heaven and earth on Cloud Continent that can raise a martial artist's natural talent, I've never heard of anyone being able to raise another's natural talent. Now you know how amazing elder brother Duan is, right? Duan Lingtian smiled. Yes, elder brother Duan is the most amazing. Yixian nodded like a chick pecking at rice, and then her face flushed red as she stared straight at Duan Lingtian. What's wrong? Is there something on my face? Duan Lingtian felt uncomfortable from being stared at like this by Yixian, and he could not help but ask. Kiss. Just when Duan Lingtian raised his hand and was about to touch his face, Yixian leaned forward and sneakily kissed Duan Lingtian's face. While Duan Lingtian was dumbstruck, Yixian had already run back to her room with a red face and closed the door with a bang. Her voice sounded from afar. Elder brother Duan, thank you. I'll cultivate properly. After she finished speaking, there was no further movement. Obviously, she knew that she possessed extraordinary natural talent and was impatient to cultivate. This girl. Duan Lingtian, who was sneakily attacked by Yixian, shook his head and smiled. If there's a chance in the future, I'll bring Xiaoxian to see father and mother. Let father and mother take her as their goddaughter, and she'll really be my younger sister. Duan Lingtian's heart slightly moved, and a warm smile appeared on his face. Young Master Duan. Right at this moment, a respectful and hurried voice sounded from outside the courtyard. Duan Lingtian frowned. He heard the urgency in the voice of the person outside, so he didn't dare dally and directly walked out of the courtyard. Only now did he notice a Ye family disciple standing there with an anxious expression. What's wrong? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. He didn't know why this Ye family disciple was so anxious, as if he was rushing to be reincarnated. Young Master Duan, quickly go over and take a look. The eldest young master and second young master of the Shen family are here. They seem to be here because of the patriarch and you going to the Shen family to break off the engagement. The Ye family disciple hurriedly said. The Shen family's eldest young master? Qinwei. Duan Lingtian recalled the Shen family's eldest young master that Yixian had mentioned to him before, Qinwei, who had entered the Five-Element sect, and he couldn't help but ask. Yes. The Ye family disciple nodded. Where are they? Lead the way. Duan Lingtian said. His expression remained calm from the beginning until the end, as if he wasn't worried in the slightest that Qinwei could do anything to him. The Ye family disciple led the way in front, and Duan Lingtian followed behind. Didn't they say that the Shen family's eldest young master is a reasonable person? Duan Lingtian frowned. He still remembered Yixian's evaluation of the Shen family's eldest young master, Chen Wei. According to Yi Xian, Chen Wei was an upright person, and he was completely different from his younger brother, Shunan. But if Chen Wei was really a reasonable person, then logically speaking, it would be impossible for him to come to the Ye family with Shunan to look for trouble with him. No matter what, I'll go over and take a look first. I was just thinking of how I should come into contact with the people from the Five Element sect, but I never expected that Chen Wei would take the initiative to deliver himself to me. Duan Lingtian followed behind the Ye family disciple as he shuttled through the Ye family estate, and it wasn't long before he arrived outside the Ye family's audience hall. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian noticed that there was a group of people surrounding the area before him. Young Master Duan has arrived. The Ye family disciple that led the way in front of Duan Lingtian shouted out loudly. Instantly, the Ye family disciples that formed a circle respectfully opened up a path. Young Master Duan! Young Master Duan! Shay! One by one, the Ye family disciples respectfully bowed to Duan Lingtian, who slowly walked over. During this period of time, the deeds of this violet-clothed young man before them had practically spread throughout the entire Drift Cloud town. With his own strength, he'd successively defeated the Shen family's patriarch and the supreme elder of the Shen family, and he'd assisted the Ye family to reject the absurd marriage agreement that was set between the Ye family and the Shen family. Because of this matter, as disciples of the Ye family, they'd been able to see the reverent gazes of others when they went out these past few days, and it caused their vanity to obtain sufficient satisfaction. They knew that all of this was brought to them by the violet-clothed young man before them, and if it wasn't for the violet-clothed young man, no one would respect them like this. Yes, Duan Lingtian lightly smiled and nodded as he faced the group of passionate Ye family disciples. Instantly, brilliant smiles appeared on the faces of the Ye family disciples as they exclaimed, "Young Master Duan isn't only strong, but he's also so modest and amiable. It's truly rare." Seeing that Duan Lingtian was so respected by the Ye family disciples, Shun An's expression completely darkened, and he looked at Yi Ting, who was nearby, and sneered, "Ye family patriarch, I think it's about time for you to give your position as patriarch to this Duan Lingtian. In the future, the Ye family will change its name to the Duan family, and the entire Ye family will change its surname to Duan." Chapter 854. Asking the Ye family to change their surname was undoubtedly an undisguised insult to the Ye family. For a time it wasn't only Yi Ting. All the Ye family elders and Ye family disciples stared furiously at Shannon. But because they were afraid of Shannon, they didn't dare make the slightest move. "Little and don't go too far. Don't forget, the reason we came to the Ye family today isn't to denounce the Ye family." Finally, Chen Wei, who'd been silently standing at the side in meditation with his eyes closed, finally opened his eyes, and his sharp gaze descended onto the violet-clothed young man at the first possible moment. "You're Duan Lingtian?" Chen Wei looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a low voice. "Exactly." Duan Lingtian nodded indifferently, and at the same time, he started to size up the young man before him, Chen Wei. Chen Wei was around the age of 35. And there was a sense of righteousness between his brows. With a single glance, one would know that he was a comparatively upright person, and this was a completely different extreme from his younger brother. "Do you know the consequences of pretending to be a five-element sect disciple and bullying others?" Chen Wei's gaze was like a bolt of lightning as he stared at Duan Lingtian and asked with a low voice, "Pretending to be a five-element sect disciple?" Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Chen Wei. Below their patriarch Yi Ting, the group of Ye family members couldn't help but be stunned when they heard Chen Wei. Duan Lingtian pretending to be a five-element sect disciple? As far as they were concerned, with the accomplishments Duan Lingtian obtained at such an age, there was utterly no need for him to pretend to be a five-element sect disciple. If Duan Lingtian wanted to, he would be entirely capable of easily joining the five-element sect. Defeating a sixth-level void interpretation stage martial artist at the mere age of 25 with an unfathomable ability. Such an outstanding young man needed to pretend to be a five-element sect disciple? Eldest young Master Chan. Is there some sort of misunderstanding? Yi Ting asked. Duan Lingtian returned to his senses and raised his eyebrows. He inadvertently looked at Shunan, who was beside Shunan. only to discover that there was a bit of panic between Shun An's brows. For a moment he vaguely guessed what was going on. Duan Lingtian. At this moment, before Duan Lingtian could speak, Shun An had already roared and looked at Duan Lingtian furiously. You scum! Not only did you impersonate a disciple of the five element sects would peak to bully others, you even forcefully seized my fiancé and forced the Ye family to break off the engagement with my Shin family. I won't let you off, I'll fight you to the death. As he finished roaring furiously, Shun An pounced towards Duan Lingtian, and he seemed as if he wanted to risk his life against Duan Lingtian. The Ye family members were stunned when they saw Shun An pouncing towards Duan Lingtian, as they never imagined that this profligate young master of the Shun family would dare make a move against Duan Lingtian. Logically speaking, he ought to know Duan Lingtian's strength. Duan Lingtian smiled. His smile was as bright as the sun. He naturally guessed Shun An's thoughts, yet he didn't expose it and instead sneered as he shouted, "Clown!" As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and slapped his palm towards Shun An. Duan Lingtian didn't use too much strength in this palm strike. Don't you dare injure my younger brother. When he saw Duan Lingtian's palm was about to descend onto Shun An, Shun Wei shouted out with a grim voice as he took a stride forward and similarly slapped out with his palm to intercept Duan Lingtian's palm strike. Whoosh! Vast origin energy transformed into vast and roiling flames at the center of Chun Wei's palm that flashed through the sky and gave rise to a wave of ear-piercing explosions as it collided with Duan Lingtian's palm strike. In the sky, the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth appeared abruptly as 60 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared first before another 40 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared subsequently. A total of 100 ancient horned dragon silhouettes flashed out with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Fourth level of the Void Interpretation Stage. Third level Intermediate Fire Concept. This was the strength of the eldest young master of the Shun family. The disciple of the five element sects would peak Chan Wei. Interesting. A wisp of a cold smile appeared on the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth, as the origin energy in his hand suddenly exploded out before transforming into waves of piercingly cold strong winds that formed a ceaselessly revolving vortex at the center of his palm. Bang! Finally, Duan Lingtian and Chun Wei's palms collided and emitted an enormous bang. Subsequently, blazing flames gushed out from Chun Wei's palm and spilled towards Duan Lingtian, and it seemed as if it wanted to burn Duan Lingtian's entire body into ash. The strong winds that roared and revolved without end instead revolved out from Duan Lingtian's hand to collide with the blazing flames before completely suppressing them. Crack! The clear sound of bones breaking resounded out, and it was accompanied by a heavy muffled groan that entered into the ears of everyone present. Subsequently, everyone saw that after Duan Lingtian's palm suppressed Chun Wei and broke one of Chun Wei's arms, the palm strike that swept out like a gale dragon descended onto Chun Wei's body. Bang! Another enormous bang sounded out as Chun Wei's entire body flew out like an arrow that left the bow, and he flew out for over 10 meters before colliding with the wall of the Ye family's audience hall before falling down and fainting. At practically the exact same moment. Swish! Swish! With the space behind and before Duan Lingtian as the center, two waves of air that were compressed exploded out and spilled out towards the surroundings, and it blew to the point the clothes of the Ye family members fluttered. Some Ye family disciples with low cultivations were even struck by the waves of air to the point of repeatedly taking a few steps back. In the sky above Duan Lingtian, the 110 ancient horned dragon silhouettes gradually dispersed, causing the sky to once again return to calm. It's the first time I've made a move since breaking through. Duan Lingtian lightly clenched his fists as a wisp of a smile appeared on his face. Fifth level of the Void Interpretation Stage. Third level Intermediate Wind Concept. This was Duan Lingtian's current strength. During this period of time in the Ye family, not only had he completed a breakthrough in his cultivation, even his wind concept had broken through once more, and he obtained the strength of 20 ancient horned dragons in one go. But why didn't my spiritual energy increase this time? Since he'd broken through to the fifth level of the Void Interpretation Stage 2 days ago, Duan Lingtian had always been puzzled about this, and he didn't know what exactly had happened. According to common sense, his spiritual energy was improved through the spirit fruit and soul pearl that could improve the level of his spiritual energy, and it was 2 levels higher than his cultivation. All this time, his spiritual power level had always been 2 levels higher than his cultivation level. But after he broke through to the 5th level of the void interpretation stage this time, Duan Lingtian noticed to his shock that his spiritual energy still remained at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage, and it didn't advance to the 7th level of the void interpretation stage. Logically speaking, this was something that was impossible. There's only one possibility. It's the side effect left behind from the Devil Seal tablet's unexpected change. Now, Duan Lingtian could only explain it like this. At that time, when he was surrounded by the 6 elders of the Skywolf Fort and his hand touched the Devil Seal tablet, the energy that gushed out from the Devil Seal tablet didn't just surge into his arm, it even surged into his soul. After that, he lost consciousness. In his days, a scene that was like a dream appeared, whereas he'd already confirmed that it wasn't a dream, and it really existed. The energy of the Devil Seal tablet temporarily took control of his body and slaughtered all the living beings in the surroundings. That time, even Feng Wudao was almost killed by him, who was controlled by the Devil Seal tablet. Fortunately, he was barely able to maintain a trace of consciousness, and this allowed Feng Wudao to escape calamity. If it's really as I think, then the side effect of the Devil Seal tablet from before is too great, right? Duan Lingtian's heart was filled with helplessness and bitterness. Since the beginning, relying on his spiritual force that was 2 levels higher than his cultivation to execute the soul skill, 1000 Illusions, could be said to be the strongest ability he possessed. It was even to the extent that by relying on the soul skill, 1000 Illusions, he'd repeatedly defeated many opponents that were difficult to defeat with his own strength. Now, after his cultivation had advanced to the 5th level of the void interpretation stage, his spiritual force didn't advance along with it, and it remained at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage instead. This caused him to be more or less slightly annoyed and disappointed. After heaving a sigh of relief, Duan Lingtian returned to his senses. No matter what exactly happened, since it had already happened, then it was bound to be difficult to change. I hope that my spiritual force will advance once more when I break through to the 6th level of the void interpretation stage. Otherwise, it's practically impossible for me to surmount a level to fight an opponent. Duan Lingtian sighed to himself. What he was most worried about now was that the level of his spiritual force would be equal to his cultivation once more. If that sort of situation really occurred, then his soul skill, 1000 Illusions, would be completely useless. Stop right there. After he returned to his senses, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but shout out with a grim voice when he saw Shannon carrying the unconscious Chun Wei on his back with the intention of secretly leaving. Instantly, the body of Shannon, who just soared into the sky, trembled, and he revealed a fierce gaze as he stared at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, you dare heavily injure my brother, you're dead. Senior Ku will absolutely not let you off. Senior Ku? Duan Lingtian's brows raised, and then he flashed out to arrive nearby Shannon before asking indifferently. Who's this Senior Ku you spoke of? A member of the 5-element sect? Exactly. Shannon revealed a vicious gaze as he stared at Duan Lingtian. Senior Ku isn't just a member of the 5-element sect. He's also my brother's master, and he's even an elder of the 5-element sects would peak. An elder of the 5-element sect? Duan Lingtian didn't have any reaction when Shannon said this. The expression of the Ye family's patriarch, Yi Ting, had already gone grim, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission into Duan Lingtian's ears. Brother Duan, you should quickly leave the Ye family and go into hiding. An elder of the 5-element sect is at least in existence at the void transformation stage. It's far from something you can go against now. An elder of the 5-element sect. Duan Lingtian seemed to have completely not heard what Yi Ting said, and his brows raised as he looked at Shan En and asked indifferently. Where's that elder of the 5-element sect now? He's naturally in our Shen family. Shan En grunted coldly, and then he ridiculed. You wouldn't be thinking of coming to our Shen family to seek forgiveness from Senior Ku, right? If you do, then I'll tell you right now. It's useless. My brother is the disciple that Senior Ku dotes on the most, and he takes Senior Ku to be his own. You crippled one of my brother's arms and even heavily injured him. Senior Ku will surely not let you off. As he finished speaking, the smile on Shun An's face grew even wider. Who else from the Five Element sect is with your brother? Duan Lingtian's expression remained calm as he asked indifferently. Even if it's only Senior Ku, it's still sufficient to annihilate you 10 times over. Duan Lingtian, wash your neck and wait. Of course you can flee as well. Ha ha ha. Chapter 855. No wonder the people of Drifting Cloud Town say that you're worse than a beast. They're right. Duan Lingtian looked at the laughing Shen, and a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Duan Lingtian, if I were you, I would run for my life right now instead of wasting time here. However, even if you escape from Drifting Cloud Town, you might not be able to escape from Senior Ku's palm. After Shen restrained his wanton laughter, he looked at Duan Lingtian as if he was looking at a dead man. Do you think a dignified elder of the Five Elements sect would be so brainless? Duan Lingtian suddenly laughed, and his laughter made Shen An's hair stand on end. He couldn't help but coldly ask, what do you mean by this? What do I mean? Duan Lingtian looked deeply at Shen. What do I mean? Don't you know better than anyone else? Maybe I hurt your brother, but why would I hurt your brother? Do you think that the elder of the Five Elements sect wouldn't find out that it was you who harmed your brother? You're talking nonsense. After Duan Lingtian hit the nail on the head, Shen An's expression changed greatly. He roared angrily, as if he wanted to use his high-pitched voice to hide his guilty conscience. I'm talking nonsense? The smile on Duan Lingtian's face became more and more brilliant. He immediately said, that's fine. I'll go with you to the Shen family. Let's see if the elder of the Five Elements sect hates you, the instigator, or me, the person who harmed your brother more. You still dare to go to our Shen family? Shen An's pupils shrank, and he said in horror, you're not afraid of death. Death? Even if I die, you should die before me, right? I'm very curious what kind of expression the elder of the Five Elements sect will have when he finds out that his favorite disciple was harmed by his own brother. Duan Lingtian's smile didn't change. You're crazy. You're crazy. Shen An's face was extremely gloomy. He was really worried that Duan Lingtian would follow him back to the Shen family. He originally thought that his plan was very thorough. After he brought his heavily injured brother back to the Shen family and Duan Lingtian escaped, his brother's master, Elder Kuzheng of the Five Elements sect, would definitely hunt down Duan Lingtian at all costs. At that time, Duan Lingtian might be killed by Kuzheng before he could say anything. But now, things were not going according to his plan at all. Or perhaps the person standing in front of him was too calm, so calm that it scared him. Yeah, family head, please call Xiaoxian over. Let's go to the Shen family together. Didn't second young Master Shun say that I took his fiancée by force? Let's go to the Five Elements sect's elder and confront him. I don't believe that everyone in the Shen family will cooperate with him. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, a mocking smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. As the head of the Ye family, Yi Ting was naturally not a stupid person. He could vaguely guess something from Duan Lingtian's words just now. All right, I'll go and bring Xiaoxian over. As Yi Ting spoke, his entire body turned into a bolt of lightning and flew toward the small courtyard where Yi Xian stayed. In the sky, Shen An's expression was extremely ugly. He looked at Duan Lingtian and said in a deep voice, Duan Lingtian, what are you trying to do? What do you want? What do I want? What do I want? Duan Lingtian looked at Shen and as if he was looking at an idiot. He laughed coldly and said, Second young Master Shen, shouldn't I be the one to ask you this question? I want to ask you instead. What do you want? What do you want? For the sake of your father, I won't haggle over the things you've done in the past. But what have you done now? You deceived your own elder brother and used him to deal with me. Do you really think that I, Duan Lingtian, am an idiot like you? Do you really think that I, Duan Lingtian, will fall into your trap? When he reached the end of his sentence, Duan Lingtian slowly spat out 2 words, idiot. Idiot. Duan Lingtian's voice rang out like the sound of a giant bell. It shook Shen so much that his expression changed and became incomparably pale. Every single word Duan Ling Tian said seemed to have transformed into a sledgehammer that fiercely smashed onto his chest, causing his breathing to become even more rapid. Duan Ling Tian. Finally, Shunan took a deep breath and slowly said, "So long as you ask the members of the Ye family to not speak carelessly about the matter today, I won't haggle over it with you. As for my brother, I'll say that he was heavily injured by an expert of unknown origin." Shunan speaking like this was obviously admitting defeat, and at the same time admitting the failure of his plan. Oh, Duan Lingtian was greatly surprised when he heard Shunan, and he asked curiously, "But your brother was obviously injured by me. He also knows that he was injured by me. In this way, wouldn't the five-element sect's elders find out sooner or later? My brother dotes on me the most. So long as I admit my mistakes to him, he'll surely cooperate with me and absolutely won't betray you." Shunan spoke in a low voice. Shunan's words caused Duan Lingtian's gaze to involuntarily descend onto the heavily injured and unconscious Chun Wei, and his eyes revealed slight pity. As far as he was concerned, it was truly Chun Wei's sorrow to have such a younger brother. His younger brother had completely taken his doting to be a tool that could be used. How lamentable. "I really feel that it wasn't worth it for your brother." Duan Lingtian shook his head as he spoke from the bottom of his heart. "You don't have to care about this. At any rate, you'll go your way in the future and I'll go mine. We'll have nothing to do with each other." After Shunan finished speaking, he wanted to take the unconscious Chun Wei and leave. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian's figure flashed and once again obstructed Shunan. Shunan's face sank as he said furiously, "Duan Lingtian, do you really think that making a big deal out of this matter is beneficial to you? Let me tell you, even if my brother's master knows of the sequence of events, it's impossible for him to kill me with my brother protecting me. Instead, it's you who's in much more danger than me." "Is that so? Then I'll make a trip with you." Duan Lingtian started laughing fearlessly. "Madman! You're a mother * king madman." Shunan bellowed with a sullen face. Although he had said those words earlier, he still wasn't confident in his heart. Who knew if his brother's master would kill him in a fit of rage before his brother woke up? "What exactly do you want before you're willing to let go of today's matter?" Shunan took a deep breath as he asked in a deep voice. Duan Lingtian ignored him as he looked at the two figures that were flying over from afar. The head of the Ye family, Yi Ting, was currently flying over with Yi Xian. In the blink of an eye, they were above the Ye family's main hall. "Elder brother Duan." Yi Xian didn't look at Shunan as she looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a worried expression, "I heard from my father that you injured Chun Wei and still want to go to the Shin family?" "Yes." Duan Lingtian lightly smiled as he nodded. "You make a trip with me as well. There might be some matters that require your help." After he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian looked at Shunan and restrained him with a raise of his hand before bringing along the unconscious Chun Wei and flashing towards the Shun family. Behind them, Yi Ting brought along Yi Xian, who hadn't stepped into the void prying stage and was unable to fly on her own as he followed along. The remaining group of Ye family elders and Ye family disciples sighed one after another. Young Master Duan is really capable. From the beginning until the end, that good-for-nothing disciple of the Shun family was completely played in the palm of young Master Duan's hand. All the Ye family disciples looked at Duan Lingtian's figure with adoration, and they only recovered from their shock when Duan Lingtian's figure vanished before their eyes. "Elder brother Duan," there was slight worry between Yi Xian's brows, and she was worried that Duan Lingtian would encounter some mishap. "Xiao Xian, don't worry. Since brother Duan has made such a decision, I believe that he surely has a plan in his heart and will be fine." Although Yi Ting was perturbed in his heart, he still couldn't help but speak out to console Duan Lingtian due to his trust in Duan Lingtian. After all, when he and Duan Lingtian went to the Shun family together to break off the engagement, his mood was even worse than it was now when he saw that Duan Lingtian's strength was inferior to the Shun family's supreme elder. But later on, Duan Lingtian had used an unfathomable ability to play with the Chan clan's supreme elder in the palm of his hand, and it caused his mood to instantly ascend from hell to heaven. "Yes." Hearing Yi Ting's consolation, Yi Xian nodded. "Duan Lingtian, let go of me. Let go of me." After being restrained by Duan Lingtian, Shunan was brought to the Shun family's mansion by Duan Lingtian. He kept roaring along the way, and his expression was extremely ferocious. Duan Lingtian couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. Duan Lingtian, as long as you let me go, not only will I completely separate you from this matter, but I also promise that I will never continue to do evil. Really? Believe me. Believe me. After Shannon realized that force wouldn't work, he chose to use a soft approach. Unfortunately, Duan Lingtian was unmoved by force or persuasion. After a short moment, Duan Lingtian once again arrived in the sky above the Shun family's mansion. The reason he wanted to make a big fuss this time was firstly because he wanted to teach Shannon a lesson, and secondly, he wanted to join the Five-Element sect through the Five-Element sect's elder before heading to the secret treasure left behind by Emperor Wu to meet up with Tian Wu and the others. It was precisely because of this that he didn't strike ruthlessly when he heavily injured Chun Wei. Chun Wei's injuries seemed to be very serious, but as long as he consumed a healing medicinal pill and recuperated slightly, he would be able to fully recover in half a month at most. Shin family's audience hall. The Five-Element sect's Wood Peak's elder, Ku Zheng, finished a meal accompanied by the Shin family's higher-ups and sat at the main seat in the audience hall. Below him sat the Shun family's patriarch, Shun Dong, and the group of Shun family's elders. Where is really? It wasn't easy for him to come back, but he actually missed the welcome banquet we prepared for Elder Ku. Shun Dong looked at Ku Zheng with an apologetic expression. Elder Ku, I'm truly sorry. Chapter 856. Oh! Ku Zheng's gaze lit up when he heard Shun Dong, and he asked with slight surprise. Could it be that the Shun clan has a young genius that satisfies this condition? Elder Ku, you must be joking. Besides Wei, our Shun clan doesn't have such an outstanding young genius. Shun Dong shook his head and laughed bitterly. He's a little brother I got to know a few days ago, and his strength is extraordinary at such a young age. I'm not afraid of Elder Ku laughing at me, but no one in our Shun clan is a match for that little brother. What? Ku Zheng was instantly shocked when he heard this. Jinart Shan, I heard from Chan Wei that the supreme elder of your Shun clan had already broken through to the 5th level of the void interpretation stage 4 years ago. Could it be that even he isn't a match for that little brother you spoke of? Elder Ku, there's something you don't know, but our Shun clan supreme elder had already broken through to the 6th level of the void interpretation stage some time ago. Shun Dong sighed, and his gaze became slightly complicated. That violet-clothed young man had given him too great of a shock some time ago. 6th level of the void interpretation stage? Ku Zheng's pupils constricted as he was moved. Jinart Shun, could it be that the little brother you spoke of even defeated your Shun clan's supreme elder? An existence at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage? Yes. Shun Dong nodded. Where's he now? Ku Zheng's gaze lit up as he asked anxiously. He suddenly felt that it was extremely likely that the young genius would be a turning point for their Five-Element sect's Wood Peak. Presently, the Wood Peak was declining with each passing day, and it urgently needed outstanding new blood to join it. He's been staying at our Ye clan in Driftcloud Town during this period of time. Elder Ku, if you're interested, Shun Dong hadn't finished speaking when he was interrupted abruptly by a voice. Jinart Shun Duan Lingtian has come uninvited. I hope you don't blame me. A calm and resounding voice sounded out from outside the Shun clan's audience hall, and it grew closer and closer. It's him. Shun Dong's eyes lit up, and he quickly looked towards the entrance of the main hall. He didn't expect that just as he mentioned Duan Lingtian would appear. However, his expression quickly changed. He saw Duan Lingtian, but he also saw two other people, a young man with a face full of fear, and a young man who was seriously injured and unconscious. He couldn't be more familiar with these two people, they were his two sons. Chun Wei. An aged voice suddenly sounded, and the old man at the head of the table disappeared without a trace. When he reappeared, he was already beside the unconscious young man, who was also the eldest young master of the Shun family, Chan Wei. After discovering that Chun Wei's injuries weren't serious, the old man heaved a sigh of relief. After feeding Chun Wei a healing medicinal pill and connecting his arm bone, he stood up and looked at the purple-clothed young man who was close by. The purple-clad young man was naturally Duan Lingtian. Jinart Shun, Yi Ting and his daughter are here to disturb you. Another voice sounded, and it was the patriarch of the Ye family, Yi Ting, who had brought his daughter, Yi Xian, over. It was you who injured Chen Wei? The old man, Kuzheng, the elder of the five-element sects would peek, stared at Duan Lingtian with his muddy eyes, and his voice was slightly low. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded, and then he carefully sized up the old man before him. When he'd just arrived at the Shen family's main hall, he'd seen the old man sitting at the head of the table, and it was easy for him to guess the old man's identity. The elder of the five-element sect. Chen Wei's master. Why? The old man was obviously a very calm person. Even when he saw his most beloved disciple being seriously injured, he didn't lose his mind from anger. Instead, he wanted to understand the ins and outs of the matter first. When he saw how sensible the old man was, Duan Lingtian's eyes were filled with praise and respect. Actually, he'd thought of this on more than one occasion before he came here. If Chen Wei's master, the elder of the five-element sect, was an unreasonable person that protected his disciples and made a move against him without asking for the reason as soon as they met, then he would use the talisman to kill Chen Wei at the first possible moment. He'd come to the Shen family this time because he was completely confident that no matter what happened, he would be able to leave calmly. Now it would seem that not only would he be able to save a talisman, he even had the opportunity to accomplish the main purpose of his trip here, which was to join the five-element sect and reunite with his lost friends through the five-element sect. You ought to be the master of eldest young Master Chan, that elder Ku of the five-element sect, right? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed as he asked with a light smile. Exactly. Kuzheng nodded, and then he glanced at Chen Wei who lay on the ground and said with a low voice, I wonder how this useless disciple of mine offended you? He forced you to be so ruthless. Ruthless? Duan Lingtian started laughing. Elder Ku, let's be straightforward. Do you really think I was ruthless to this disciple of yours? Kuzheng couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this. Needless to say, even though he said the violet-clothed young man before him was ruthless, he didn't think like this in his heart. He'd clearly inspected the injuries on his disciple earlier, and they were all external injuries. He only needed to consume healing medicinal pills, connect the bones, and recuperate for a period of time before he would be able to recover completely, and it wouldn't leave behind any side effects. No matter what, you've injured my disciple. I feel that this disciple of mine has a pure and good character, and he's absolutely not a person that takes the initiative to cause trouble. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Kuzheng asked with a low voice. Actually, his heart was filled with shock at this moment, and he was shocked by the age of this violet-clothed young man before him. This young man that looked to be around the age of 25 at most was actually able to defeat his personal disciple Chen Wei, who was a fourth-level void interpretation stage martial artist. When he inspected Chen Wei's injuries, he noticed that Chen Wei was heavily injured under the circumstances of going head-on against another, and the person that injured him had intentionally held back. Otherwise, Chen Wei's injuries wouldn't be so simple. It was difficult for him to imagine that a young man like this would actually possess such a terrifying strength. Unknowingly, slight love for talent had arisen in the depths of his heart. If I'm able to bring him back to the five-element sect, would I have to worry about the prosperity of the Wood Peak? But before I bring him back, I must test his character. Otherwise, even if I bring him back, he'll be poached away by the other three peaks. Kuzheng thought in his heart. During these past few years, it wasn't that disciples with outstanding natural talent hadn't appeared in their Wood Peak, but because of various reasons, they were poached away by the other three peaks. If this violet-clothed young man before him was a fence-sitter, then no matter how outstanding his natural talent was, he wouldn't bring him back to the five-element sect, because it would be a gift to the other three peaks. Explanation. Duan Lingtian shook his head when he heard Kuzheng, and then he pointed at Shun and Elder Ku. If you really want an explanation, then I think he ought to be the most suitable to give you one. Kuzheng frowned as he looked at Shunan. Is what he said true? No. Shunan hurriedly shook his head and pointed at Duan Lingtian in panic. Elder Ku, it's him. It's he that injured my brother. Quickly kill him, quickly kill him. Bastard. Finally, Shun Dong walked over and glared angrily at Shun and as he shouted, "Tell me honestly, what absurd things have you done this time?" He'd faintly guessed some things in his heart. He understood his eldest son, and he believed that his eldest son would absolutely not take the initiative to offend Duan Lingtian. Moreover, there was no enmity between the two of them. As for Duan Lingtian, even though they'd only known each other for a short period of time, he was able to discern that Duan Lingtian was an upright person. So as far as he was concerned, this matter was most probably started by this youngest son of his. Shun An's entire body trembled when he was shouted at by Shun Dong, and his countenance went ghastly pale as he stretched out his hand to point at Duan Lingtian and roared, "Father! It's him! It's he that injured Big Brother! Quickly kill him! Quickly kill him!" The current Shun An was roaring hysterically, as though he was concealing the fear in his heart. "Looks like you're unwilling to speak the truth?" Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Shun An, and then looked at Yi Ting. "Yeah, family head, please tell Elder Ku and Jean Art Shen how awe-inspiring second young Master Shen was in the Ye family's residence just now." "What? Bastard, you actually brought your brother to barge into the Ye family's residence." Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Shun Dong's expression changed greatly. He raised his hand and gave Shun An a slap, causing Shun An to be dazed for a while. Yi Ting took a deep breath, and without hiding anything, he recounted how Shun An had brought Chan Wei to barge into the Ye family's residence and injured many of the Ye family's disciples. "Besides that, I feel that eldest young Master Shen might have been deceived by second young Master Shun." Just as Yi Ting spoke up to hear, he was interrupted by Shun and Yi Ting. "Don't slander me. Father Elder Ku, I didn't deceive my brother, I didn't deceive my brother. It's them that injured my brother. Quickly, quickly. Quickly kill them, quickly kill them." Shun An looked at Shun Dong and Ku Zheng as he roared hysterically, "Shut up, you bastard." Shun Dong's expression sank as he shouted once more, shocking Shun An to the point his face turned even paler, and his body trembled intensely from fear. "Oh!" Suddenly, a voice sounded out, and it was the unconscious Chun Wei who opened his eyes and muttered in a daze, "Where is this place? Since eldest young Master Shen has woken up, yeah, family head, you don't have to waste your breath." Duan Lingtian smiled, and then he glanced at Shun An. "What do you think? Second young Master Shen?" Shun An's expression sank slightly as he took a deep breath and hurriedly looked at Chun Wei. "You wouldn't be thinking of using sound transmission to make your brother lie for you, right?" After noticing Shun An's actions, Duan Lingtian took a step forward and grabbed Shun An with one hand before making him spin a few rounds like a top, causing Shun An to be completely distracted and be unable to use sound transmission. Chun Wei. Shun Dong and Ku Zheng didn't stop Duan Lingtian, and they walked out with large strides to support Chun Wei up from both sides, and their faces were filled with worry. "Father, Master." Chun Wei awoke from his stupor and asked in bewilderment, "Why am I here?" "It's you. What do you want to do to little N?" Chun Wei's expression went grim when he saw Duan Lingtian playing with Shun An, and he shouted furiously as he was about to make a move against Duan Lingtian to save Shun An. But unfortunately, he who hadn't completely recovered had only taken a step forward when his entire body almost collapsed. Fortunately, Shun Dong and Ku Zheng supported him. "Chun Wei, what exactly happened? Tell me the sequence of events of the entire matter without leaving out a single word," Ku Zheng asked in a low voice. Chapter 857. No. When Shun An heard Ku Zheng's question to Chun Wei, he who had his back facing Chun Wei and was unable to send a voice transmission to Chun Wei instantly became anxious, and he opened his mouth with the intention of stopping Chun Wei. Slap. Duan Lingtian, who was prepared since long ago, raised his hand and swung out a slap, striking Shun An to the point he felt dizzy. "Shut up. I'll beat you into a pig's head if you continue talking." "You!" Chun Wei's face went grim when he saw Duan Lingtian treating his younger brother like this, and his eyes went crimson red. But he was utterly unable to exert any strength now, and he could only watch helplessly. "Father, Master, quickly stop him." Shinan asked for help from Shundong and Kuzheng, but he quickly noticed that no matter if it was his father or his master, both of them didn't have the intention to save Shinan. For a time, he faintly realized the strangeness of the atmosphere. "Father, what's wrong?" Chun Wei looked at Shundong with a bewildered expression. "Wei, answer your master." Shundong spoke with a serious expression. Only now did Chun Wei notice that his master was looking at him solemnly, and he instantly didn't dare dally and spoke of everything that Shunan had said to him when he just entered the clan. "Not only did that Duan Lingtian impersonate a disciple of our five-element sects would peak to bully others, he even forcefully seized my younger brother's fiancée and pressured the Ye family to make the Ye family break off the engagement with our Shun family, causing our Shun family to lose face." Chun Wei looked at Duan Lingtian and gnashed his teeth as he said, "So it was I who wanted to teach him a lesson, and it's unrelated to Shaoan. Moreover, master, don't you think he ought to be taught a lesson? Impersonate a disciple of our would peak." Kuzheng's face sank when he heard Chun Wei, and he looked at Duan Lingtian with a cold and indifferent gaze. "What explanation do you have?" "Explanation?" Duan Lingtian smiled and glanced indifferently at Kuzheng as he said, "Elder Ku, truthfully speaking, before I helped the Ye family break off the engagement with the Shin family, I utterly didn't know of the existence of the five-element sect, let alone the wood peak. As for the reason why I went to break off the engagement with the Shin family, Jinart Shin knew it clearly. If Jinart Shan's explanation, then I've brought the person involved in it as well." When he spoke up to hear Duan Lingtian, "Xiao Xian, Xiao Xian." Yi Xian stood obediently by Duan Lingtian's side and looked timidly at Kuzheng. To her, the elders of the Five Elements sect were unreachable existences that she had to look up to. Facing them face to face, her heart was filled with apprehension. There's no need for young Miss Yi to personally say this matter. Shundong took a deep breath before explaining the farce of the engagement between the Ye family and Shun family to Kuzheng, and at the same time, he spoke of all the misdeeds his youngest son had done in these past few years. "So, it's this unfilial son of mine that's unworthy of the Ye family's young miss. Brother Ling Tian coming to break off the engagement with our Shun family was pardonable, and he was frank and open. He only wanted to repay the kindness of the Ye family's young miss for saving his life, and he didn't ask for anything else." When he spoke up to hear, Shun Dong looked angrily at Shun and who had his back facing them, and he said with a low voice, "But never had I imagined that this unfilial son would actually distort the truth before Wei. He was clearly the one that bullied others, yet he spoke of it as Brother Ling Tian. As for impersonating a disciple of the five-element sects would peak, it was surely him that framed Brother Ling Tian for the sake of infuriating Wei and making Wei stand up for him." As Shun Dong finished speaking, he was seething with rage, and the clothes on his body fluttered without the wind. "What?" Chun Wei's face went pale when he heard his father, and he looked at Shun An's figure with disbelief as he muttered, "It's Little An. When did Little An become like this? Why did Little An become like this? No. Impossible. Impossible." Chun Wei was unable to accept the fact that his younger brother was a profligate disciple and frequently bullied others. In the end, he was unable to catch his breath, and his vital energy and blood attacked his heart, causing him to faint once more. "Third elder, please bring the eldest young master down to rest." Shundong sighed, and then he looked at Shun Lei who stood silently at the side and called out to him. "Yes." Shun Lei replied respectfully, and then he supported the unconscious Chun Wei down. "Looks like I've misunderstood you." Kuzheng looked at Duan Lingtian as he squeezed out a trace of a smile on his face, and he seemed to be amiable. "You're Duan Lingtian?" "Yes." Duan Lingtian nodded. Good. Kuzheng sized up Duan Lingtian from top to bottom, and his face revealed a satisfied smile. "Elder Ku, he's the little brother I mentioned to you earlier." Seeming to have discerned that Kuzheng was interested in Duan Lingtian, Shun Dong who stood at the side said with a light smile, "On that day, for the sake of repaying the debt of saving his life from the Ye family's young miss, he trespassed into my Shin family estate by himself. He first defeated me, then defeated my Shin family's supreme elder, and he broke off the absurd engagement between the Ye family and our Shun family. For the sake of repaying the debt of saving his life, It's rare that he was able to go to such an extent. Ku Zheng looked at Duan Lingtian with a gaze that was even more satisfied. He was able to discern from this matter that there was completely no problem with Duan Lingtian's character. His worries from before were completely unnecessary. Most importantly, Duan Lingtian's natural talent in the martial Dao could truly be said to be terrifying. A young man that looked to be around the age of 25 was actually able to defeat the Shen family's supreme elder, an existence at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage. Even their 5-element sect didn't have such an outstanding disciple. Perhaps he's a turning point for our Wood Peak. Ku Zheng's gaze became slightly excited as he looked at Duan Lingtian, as if he'd seen the rise of their Wood Peak, and as if he'd seen the jaws of the members of the other 3 peaks drop from shock. Jinart Shen, I'll blush if you continue praising me. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, and then he raised his hand to throw Shunan onto the ground as a sharp light flashed within his eyes. Jinart Shen, how do you intend to deal with the matter this time? As soon as Duan Lingtian said this, Ku Zheng looked at Shun Dong with a slightly fierce gaze. Obviously, this elder of the 5-element sect couldn't bear to see Shunan's despicable actions as well, especially when Shunan had tricked his own brother, who was his disciple. This caused him to be even more furious. But as the saying goes, an upright official finds it difficult to deal with family matters. He knew clearly in his heart that he was an outsider in the Shen family in the end, and it wasn't convenient for him to interfere in these matters. Don't worry, Brother Duan, I'll give you and Elder Ku a satisfactory explanation. Shindong took a deep breath and seemed to have made some sort of decision. Father, I know my mistake. I know my mistake. Please spare me this time, please spare me this time. When he saw Shundong's cold gaze sweeping over, Shunan seemed to have realized what was about to happen. He couldn't help but shiver as he continued to beg for mercy with a trembling voice. Unfortunately, when faced with Shunan's begging, the fierce light in Shundong's eyes didn't show any signs of weakening. Perhaps, he had already given up on this youngest son of his. Subsequently, under Duan Lingtian's astonished gaze, Shundong arrived in front of Shun and raised his hand to knock out Shun, and who was lying limp on the ground with a look of despair on his face. Crack! Crack! For consecutive sounds of bones shattering resonated in the air, and it caused one's hair to stand on end. It was Shundong who had crushed all the bones in his youngest son Shunan's limbs with a raise of his hand. Looking at how ruthless he was, even if there was a grade 1 life recovery pill, Shunan's broken limbs would never be able to recover. From now on, this unfilial son will stay in the Shun family for the rest of his life. The Shun family will let him spend his life peacefully in bed, and won't let him go out and cause trouble again. Shundong's cold voice resonated, fully demonstrating his determination. It was said that even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. Shundong was now riding a tiger and couldn't get off. He had no choice but to make up his mind. Otherwise, he didn't know what kind of trouble his youngest son would cause in the future. The Shun family elders sighed, but no one felt that Shunan was pitiful. In their opinion, this might be the best ending for Shun and elder brother Duan. Let's go back. When the sound of bones shattering resonated in the air, Yi Xian's pretty face was already pale with fright. She couldn't help but close her eyes, not daring to look. Okay. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded. He then held Yi Xian's hand and greeted Shindong and Ku Zheng. Jinart Shen, Elder Ku, since this matter is settled, I'll take my leave first. After he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian took Yi Xian and stepped into the air. He flew out of the Shen family's main hall with Yi Ting. Brother Duan. When Shindong saw that Duan Lingtian was about to leave, he immediately became anxious. He had just boasted in front of Ku Zheng that he would introduce Duan Lingtian to Ku Zheng. Jinart Shen, is something the matter? Duan Lingtian paused in the air and asked with a puzzled expression. It's not that I'm in trouble, but Elder Ku. I wonder if Brother Duan is interested. Shindong looked at Duan Lingtian and wanted to ask if Duan Lingtian was interested in joining the 5-element sect. However, before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Duan Lingtian. Jinart Shen wants to ask me if I'm interested in joining the 5-element sect? That's right. Shindong nodded. He didn't expect Duan Lingtian to actually guess his thoughts. Sure. Duan Lingtian didn't beat around the bush and nodded. Then he looked at Kuzheng, who revealed an excited expression after hearing what he said and lightly smiled. Of course, the precondition is that Elder Ku takes a fancy to me. Of course. Kuzheng quickly nodded with a smile on his face. He didn't have the slightest demeanor that a void transformation stage expert should have. Elder brother Duan, you want to go to the five-element sect? Yi Xian's beautiful face went slightly pale as she bit her lips, and her beautiful eyes were filled with unwillingness. Xiao Xian, if you're willing, then follow me to the five-element sect. I think Elder Ku ought to not refuse, right? Duan Lingtian glanced deeply at Kuzheng as he asked. Of course not. Kuzheng spoke hurriedly. After he acknowledged Duan Lingtian's character, he was filled with interest towards this young man that possessed monstrous natural talent, and he wished for nothing more than to directly bring Duan Lingtian back to the five-element sect and the Wood Peak. Even though Duan Lingtian's current request was slightly excessive, it was only towards ordinary people, and towards a monstrous martial artist like Duan Lingtian, there was naturally a different treatment. I can go to the five-element sect? Yi Xian couldn't help but be stunned when she heard Duan Lingtian, and at the same time that she heard Kuzheng's reply, her beautiful face was dumbstruck and covered in disbelief. Elder Ku, can my daughter really join the five-element sect? He wanted to join the five-element sect more so that he could smoothly meet a few of his old friends through the five-element sect and reunite with them. He didn't really want to join the five-element sect and do something like that. For this reason, under such circumstances, Duan Lingtian felt guilty. He felt guilty toward the five-element sect. He wanted Yi Xian to join the five-element sect more so that he could compensate the five-element sect. Perhaps, in the eyes of others today, Yi Xian could join the five-element sect because of Duan Lingtian. But he was very clear in his heart. In the future, Yi Xian would let everyone know that it wasn't Yi Xian who wanted to join the five-element sect, but it was the five-element sect who wanted to join Yi Xian. Of course, Duan Lingtian didn't say all of this because he knew that not many people would believe him even if he said it. It was better to let the facts speak for themselves. The current Yi Xian needed time. So long as she had time, her shocking innate talent would gradually reveal itself and shine brilliantly. Five-element sect, this can be considered as my explanation to you, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. In the next few days, Duan Lingtian was still the same as before. He was either cultivating, comprehending concept, or sitting in the small courtyard and drinking tea comfortably. He asked Kuzheng for a few days to prepare, but it was naturally not for himself. He was all alone and had no relatives or friends here, so he could leave at any time. These few days of time were for Yi Xian. According to his knowledge, Yi Xian had never traveled far in her entire lifetime, so she naturally had to be given time to properly prepare. In the next few days, the news of Yi Xian joining the five-element sect spread throughout the Ye family. For a time, it caused the Ye family to be decorated with lanterns and colored banners, and it was jubilant as if it was the new year. All the disciples of the Ye family that went out during these few days would frequently say, "Our Ye family's young miss is going to join the five-element sect." On the other hand, outsiders also flattered them. Everyone was clearly aware of what Yi Xian joining the five-element sect meant. From today onwards, the Ye family would be completely different from before. Just like the Shun family, they had the five-element sect as their backing. Perhaps the five-element sect wouldn't turn out in full force for them, but the interactions between people could not be without favors. Once the Ye family was in trouble, and the Ye family's young miss, Yi Xian, returned to help, there would definitely be some five-element sect's elders and disciples who would come to help by her side. Drift Cloud Town is going to change. Ye family, when one person achieves the Tao, all his friends and family will ascend to the heavens. The streets and alleys of Drift Cloud Town were completely bustling with noise and excitement because of the news of the Ye family's young miss joining the five-element sect. 5 days later, Duan Lingtian stood quietly at the entrance of the Ye family's mansion. He was as still as a mountain and he was like a statue. His gaze was on a group of people not far away. A beautiful young girl was bidding farewell to the Ye family's patriarch, Yi Ting, and a group of Ye family's higher-ups. All the Ye family's disciples who were in the Ye family's mansion came out to send her off. Half an hour later, the young girl turned around and walked to Duan Lingtian's side. "Brother Duan, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Xiaoxian in the future." Yi Ting looked at Duan Lingtian and entrusted him with a solemn expression. His daughter was his precious treasure. This was the first time she was going out, and he was extremely reluctant to part with her. "Don't worry, patriarch of the Ye family. I will." Duan Lingtian nodded solemnly and held Yixian's hand. He chuckled softly and said, "Xiaoxian, let's go." "Okay." Yixian was brought up into the air by Duan Lingtian and flew in the direction of the Shan family. However, she could not help but look back at the Ye family and wave goodbye to them. It was only when the Ye family's figures disappeared before her eyes that she turned around in disappointment and muttered, "Elder brother Duan, when do you think I can come back to see my father?" "Silly girl." Duan Lingtian smiled tenderly. "As long as you're willing, you can come back any time. I'll inform Elder Ku about this matter." Duan Lingtian believed that Ku Zheng would definitely not reject such a small matter. Elder brother Duan, please don't tell Elder Ku about this first. Otherwise, he'll think that I'm relying on your power and talent to do whatever I want." Yixian stuck out her tongue and said playfully, "I still hope that I can rely on myself to obtain the respect of Elder Ku and the other 5-element sect's disciples." Duan Lingtian nodded with a smile. "You're ambitious. We'll do as you say." Soon Duan Lingtian and Yixian arrived at the Shen family's mansion. Naturally, they were warmly welcomed by the clan leader of the Shen family, Shandong. In the Shen family's main hall, Duan Lingtian saw Ku Zheng again. Today Ku Zheng looked radiant, as if he was a few years younger. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up as he asked in surprise, "Did Elder Ku make a breakthrough these few days?" "Duan Lingtian, you really have a good eye. My cultivation these few days has been very smooth. I've finally broken through the bottleneck that I haven't been able to break through for many years." Many years ago, Ku Zheng's cultivation had fallen into the bottleneck that led to the 7th level of the void transformation stage, yet he was unable to break through all this time, and it was as if he'd fallen into a devil's trap. During these few days, because he'd encountered Duan Lingtian and Duan Lingtian had agreed to return to the 5-element sect with him to join the Wood Peak, his mood was extremely good. Who would have imagined that an unintentionally planted willow would become a shade, and his cultivation would break through in one go? "Now that I speak of it, I have to thank you for this matter." Ku Zheng smiled as he spoke. "Thank me?" Duan Lingtian was stunned. "It's precisely because you agreed to return to the 5-element sect with us that Master's mood was extremely good, and was able to break through." A person walked in from outside the door as his calm voice sounded out. Duan Lingtian glanced over and noticed that the person who'd entered was precisely the Shen family's eldest young master, Chen Wei. A few days had passed, and Chen Wei had already recovered to the point of seeming completely fine. "Eldest young master Chen." Duan Lingtian nodded to Chen Wei, and after he found out about the sequence of events from before, he didn't hold a grudge against Chen Wei in his heart. During the entire matter, Chen Wei was kept in the dark and was used by his younger brother, Shannon. Everything he'd done wasn't wrong. "Duan Lingtian, I hope you can forgive me for offending you a few days ago." After Chen Wei entered, he bowed to Duan Lingtian in apology, and his tone was filled with sincerity. "Eldest young master Chen, you're too kind. I've already forgotten about that matter." Duan Lingtian smiled frankly, and his good impression of Chen Wei grew even better. As expected of a figure that the residents of Drift Cloud Town would give a thumbs up upon mentioning him, he deserves his reputation. "We're all from the same sect in the future, so don't call me eldest young master. Just call me Chen Wei." Chen Wei smiled as he spoke, and then he looked at Yixian, who was by Duan Lingtian's side. "This ought to be the young miss of the Ye family, right?" "Young Miss Yi, I've disturbed the Ye family a few days ago, and I apologize for offending you. As for that younger brother of mine, I never imagined that he would actually do so many things that infuriated the heavens and the people during these past few years." Chapter 859. Let's not mention the matters of the past. Kuzheng shook his head, and then he said, since everyone is here, then it's time for us to leave. Elder Ku, why don't all of you have lunch before leaving? Shundong urged Kuzheng to stay. There's no need. Jinart Shun. Thank you for your hospitality these past few days. Kuzheng nodded to Shundong, and then he called out to Duan Lingtian and the others before walking out. Jinart Shun, farewell. Duan Lingtian brought along Yixian and bid farewell to Shundong before following Kuzheng. Chun Wei hurriedly followed as well. The group of four soared up into the sky from the Shun clan estate and headed west. On the way, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but ask curiously, Elder Ku, are we returning to the Five-Element sect or going somewhere else? I'll send all of you to Settlement City first. Arwood Peak has a base there. The two people we recruited not long ago are there as well. Kuzheng said. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Elder Ku, tell me about the situation in the Five-Element sect? Duan Lingtian asked. Kuzheng nodded, and then he introduced. Our Five-Element sect is divided into the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth peaks. Besides the metal peak being the main peak of the sect master's line, the other four peaks are of equal status and are controlled by the four peak masters. The four peaks have always been in a state of competition, and in the last 20 years, it's Arwood Peak that has fallen into a disadvantageous position. When he spoke up to hear, Kuzheng sighed heavily. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian obtained a certain level of understanding of the Five-Element sects would peak from Kuzheng and Chun Wei, and he knew that it was once the most brilliant peak beneath the metal peak. However, 20+ years ago, the Wood Peak's master was heavily injured outside and returned to enter closed-door cultivation, causing the Wood Peak to start going downhill. First, the outstanding disciples of the Wood Peak were poached away by the other three peaks, and then the other three peaks intentionally joined forces to suppress the Wood Peak, causing the Wood Peak to be reduced to the lowest-ranked peak for a time. Even though the experts of the older generation of the Wood Peak were still present, the younger generation seemed to be lacking when compared to the other three peaks. A force, even if it is a small force that was separated from the same sect, once the younger generation is unable to carry on, it means that it will decline. Kuzheng sighed. Why don't you just recruit some more genius disciples? As long as we spend more time, we can still find talented disciples. Duan Lingtian said. We're naturally aware of this, and we've indeed done this. But those genius disciples hadn't even warmed up a seat in Arwood Peak when they were poached away by the other three peaks. Kuzheng smiled bitterly. What about Jin Feng, who is from the sect master's faction, who doesn't care? Duan Lingtian asked with a frown. This is something you don't know. In our Five-Element sect, there's a tradition that has always been passed down. The five peaks exist together and compete with each other. Besides the disciples of the various peaks being prohibited from casually killing and crippling each other, and the seniors being prohibited from making a move against the juniors, there aren't many other restrictions. Since the beginning, Jin Feng has always been the deserving number one peak in our Five-Element sect, and its status is impossible to shake. The other four peaks have always been competing openly and covertly. 20 years ago, Arwood Peak became the target of the joint suppression of the other three peaks, and this suppression caused us to be unable to catch our breath for 20+ years. When he spoke up to hear, Kuzheng sighed. Duan Lingtian came to a sudden understanding, and he was able to understand the Wood Peak situation for a time. Besides the 7th-level Void Interpretation Stage bandit in the lead, he was able to affect the other bandits with his soul skill, and cause them to fall into an illusory space. When Duan Lingtian executed his soul skill, 1,000 Illusions, Kuzheng and Chun Wei were both shocked by Duan Lingtian's words. Kuzheng couldn't help but frown, and he felt that Duan Lingtian was too arrogant. Alas, I misjudged in the end? Kuzheng sighed in his heart, and the origin energy in his body started to roil as he was prepared to make a move against the group of bandits that charged over at any moment. Obviously, he didn't believe Duan Lingtian's boasting, but in next to no time he was stunned. Chun Wei was stunned as well. Yixian, who tightly embraced Duan Lingtian's neck and lay on Duan Lingtian's back, was originally terrified by the group of bandits to the point she couldn't help but close her eyes. But when she curiously opened her eyes to look outside, she instead saw a scene that she would never be able to forget in her lifetime. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 8 bandits that charged over abruptly stopped in midair, and their eyes revealed bewilderment, as if they'd suddenly lost their target. Subsequently, they went berserk successively and attacked their former companions, and the surging strength that was on the verge of erupting completely poured out. Bang! 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 A terrifying strength tore through the sky and gave rise to a wave of ear-piercing explosions, and it was the 3 6th level Void Interpretation stage bandits that had joined forces to kill their 5 companions. What are all of you doing? The bandit leader that wasn't affected by Duan Lingqian's soul skill was stunned for a moment when he saw this scene, and then his face went grim as he roared with a grim voice. Chapter 860. What? All of you still want to make a move against me? The 7th level Void Interpretation stage bandit in the lead had a gloomy expression as he looked at his 3 subordinates. These 3 subordinates of his didn't even dare utter a single word in front of him, let alone arouse killing intent towards him. Kill! The 3 6th level Void Interpretation stage bandits shouted out explosively as they directly attacked the bandit leader. They utilized their full strength as soon as they attacked and directly targeted the bandit leader's vital points without holding back in the slightest. Have all of you gone mad? The bandit leader shouted out furiously. Yet he didn't launch an attack and only dodged the attacks of the 3 bandits as he shouted out explosively at the same time. However, the 3 bandits seemed as if they didn't hear him at all and continued charging towards him. In the end, the bandit leader realized that something was amiss. But the successive attacks of the 3 bandits caused him to be unable to divert his attention to think about anything else, and he could only attack furiously and launch attacks that covered the heavens and the earth to envelop the 3 bandits. The strength of a 7th level Void Interpretation stage martial artist was clearly visible. The strength of a 7th level Void Interpretation stage martial artist was like a chasm when compared to a 6th level Void Interpretation stage martial artist, and it was a completely new leap. Unless a 6th level Void Interpretation stage martial artist possessed a special ability, otherwise, they would utterly have no ability to fight back before a 7th level Void Interpretation stage martial artist. In the time of 10 breaths, the bandit leader attacked furiously and killed all 3 of his subordinates. After he killed his 3 subordinates, he recovered from his shock, and his gaze descended onto Kuzheng as he said in a low voice, "What did you do to them?" Kuzheng had just recovered from his shock when he heard the bandit leader, and he was slightly speechless for a time. What did he do? From the beginning until the end he seemed to have stood at the side and watched the show, right? In next to no time, the bandit leader took a deep breath and his emotions calmed down. When he recalled the scene from before, he felt his scalp go slightly numb. I'll spare your lives today." The bandit leader snorted coldly as he maintained an imposing manner that didn't lose, and his figure flashed out to transform into a bolt of lightning, intending to leave this place. He noticed the aura of danger from the 4 of them. "Since you've come, don't leave." An aged voice seemed to sound out from all directions. Subsequently, a figure appeared out of thin air on the path of the bandit leader. It was precisely Kuzheng. The bandit leader looked at the figure that appeared in front of him like a ghost. Even he couldn't see the figure. His expression changed and he said in panic, You're a void transformation stage expert?" Kuzheng didn't answer the bandit leader. He looked at him calmly, without any emotion in his eyes. "Senior, please spare me. Senior, please spare my life." Under the astounded gazes of Duan Lingtian, Yixian and Chan Wei, the leader of the bandits, a dignified 7th level Void Interpretation stage martial artist, actually knelt down before Kuzheng and ceaselessly begged for mercy. A qualified martial artist should be unyielding and unafraid of death. A coward like you who is afraid of death is not fit to be a martial artist. Kuzheng's face turned cold. He raised his hand and a vast amount of flames swept out, enveloping the bandit leader and burning him to ashes. From the beginning to the end, the latter didn't even have time to scream. "So strong! Yi Xian, who was leaning on Duan Lingtian's back, said in shock. Seventh level of the void transformation stage. Even though the old man held back slightly when he attacked, Duan Lingtian was still able to discern some clues from the old man's origin energy that was fused with the advanced fire concept. After all, he'd fused with the lifetime worth of memories of Emperor Wu. Even though he was temporarily unable to use his spiritual force to detect the old man's cultivation, he was still able to use his eyes to notice some things. With Elder Ke's strength, his status in the Wood Peak of the Five Element sect is probably not low, Duan Lingtian guessed in his heart. Meanwhile, a flash appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes and a figure appeared. It was precisely Ke Zheng who'd returned after killing the bandit leader, and the figure was staring at him with a burning gaze. Elder Ke. Duan Lingtian felt uncomfortable and slightly embarrassed when he was stared at by Ke Zheng like this. You dealt with those 8 bandits earlier. You used an ability similar to an illusory realm? Finally, Ke Zheng spoke and asked with slight surprise. It wasn't similar. What I executed earlier was an illusory realm ability. Duan Lingtian spoke truthfully. I didn't sense any fluctuation of the aura of an inscription or inscription formation. In other words, you used your own spiritual force to execute a soul skill similar to an illusory realm and constructed it? Ke Zheng's breathing became slightly hurried. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. He couldn't deny this. You wouldn't be a demon, right? Ke Zheng sized up Duan Lingtian from top to bottom and asked with a questioning expression. Duan Lingtian was instantly speechless when he heard this. No, I have to verify it. Ke Zheng spoke out abruptly. How do you verify it? Duan Lingtian was stunned. You'll know in a moment. Ke Zheng glanced at Duan Lingtian with ill intentions, and then he withdrew an ancient bronze mirror that had strands of faint flowing lights revolving on it. Demon Revelation Mirror? Duan Lingtian was completely speechless when he saw the thing in Ke Zheng's hand. Senior, is there a need for this? The demon revealing mirror wasn't something rare on Cloud Continent. Any weapon craftsman above grade 3 could refine it as long as they had the materials. The demon revelation mirror was not a spirit weapon. It only had one function, and that was to verify if a person was a human transformed from a demon. As long as a human transformed from a demon appeared on the demon revelation mirror, it would not show a human image, but a mirror image of its true self. Let me see if a little monster like you is a human transformed from a demon. Ke Zheng picked up the demon revelation mirror and aimed it at Duan Lingtian. Then he stuck his head out to look at the mirror. When he saw that it was still Duan Lingtian that appeared on the mirror, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief. At this moment, he was 100% sure that Duan Lingtian was a pure human and not a person that was transformed from a demon.